Okay, good morning, everybody. We are here for the three semifinals. Today we will see a showdown between Hanan Mashari and Yifan, and also between the two Russian players, Lano and Kostanuk. So good morning. Hope everybody out here is having a good time. It is currently 7:30 a.m. in the morning for both Hess and I. So we are bright, we are awake, we're ready for. Wait, is am I muted as well? Is only Hess muted? I know Hess isn't talking, which is why I'm okay. Wait. Okay. Okay, I'll just keep talking. Anyways, I don't think I'm
Wait, I
muted. I
think I
think.
did it. I did it. I'm live. Sorry about that, everybody. We
Okay.
got this. Whew. I have to host today, so it's me scuffing things a bit. Sorry, Chiyu, for getting
No
off to the
worries at
rough start.
all.
And we are live. We are ready for action to take place. We're starting with Sara Kadem versus Ho Yifan in this Women's Speeches Championship third Grand Prix leg. Chiyu, I know it's early, but I'm excited. Are you excited for these semifinals today?
I am. Let's do it. Let's do it.
And it's already been a very fun Grand Prix leg. We have two excellent matches remaining. We first have Sara Kadem against Ho Yifan. Yesterday, if I'm remembering correctly, I chose Sara Kadem to land an upset. You were going with Ho Yifan.
Yes,
Are you sticking to that?
I think I am. I think I am.
Okay. Well, I don't really want to argue with my co-commentator, so I feel like maybe I should make that change, but I'm not going to. Against my better judgment, I'm sticking with Sara Kadem as the upset specialist in this one.
That sounds like a very, very good idea, actually, because Sarah has been playing really well. If anybody is going to, make an upset, it will be Sarah.
Well, we have liftoff. We have the game underway here, and the fourth move G6 played by Sara here, trying to get the bishop to G7 to protect E5, but it does take two moves to develop your bishop in this line, right? So it's kind of a risky strategic play because White has great control over the center, even though Black is trying to get active and avoid some of the main lines. So, Chiyu, do you have experience in this variation?
I do. I definitely do. Like I mentioned yesterday, I mentioned over the last few days, I'm a huge fan of the Spanish. There's only so many lines, and I've definitely seen this before.
Indeed. And we are still early in this one, and just I put the timer on screen. It's approximate. It's not always. We'll get the official word from everybody, but we have just 29 minutes remaining. About in this time control here, D5 played by Yifan after quite an extensive think. So she's attacking the knight on C6, giving up this bishop on A4 to get this knight on C6. So it's already a big decision to make, and now Sara is sitting and thinking. So my first instinct is to gobble up this bishop on A4 and say, I'm getting the two bishops. My bishop on G7 is an absolute monster here. So that would be my play, but I can understand it if she decides to move her knight instead.
I mean, I think B takes A4 is definitely these kind of moves are more about personal choice than it is about the position, I believe. Because for me, while it looks good, I would feel a little bit, oh, she plays it.
You mean the
Hess is the better player here. We all know that.
it's just. Oh, okay. Now she's gonna take with a knight on c6. So
That was actually a really smart idea, I think. I don't think you want to, double your pawns on the c file. That's my main concern. So I was actually wondering how she does it. So I guess knight to e7 was the way to go.
yeah, and it's starting to feel like, to my eyes, Black's position is just excellent. Right? You don't even have double pawns. You have even material. Your bishop on g7 is doing good work. I imagine that Yifan will have to play bishop g5 at some point just to either encourage f6 or maybe even force it in some variations. But, I mean, this bishop on c8, not the best piece. So even though there's the two bishops for black, I wouldn't say that the bishop on c8 will have an amazing time in the light squares. Remains to be seen. And knight to c3 first. I still... I don't know. I still think that black is totally fine. I'm just not entirely sure, Chiyu, and I'm going to toss the tough question to you. What's the plan for black?
I think that my brain tells me to put rooks on half open file. So we'll see something like rook b8 and rook e8. Those are very natural moves. It's much less of a plan than it is just like immediate moves, but usually sometimes I just finish my development and then I see where everything goes from there, and that's okay too. Maybe we'll also see a5 with bishop a6. It's just a general idea of how to develop in this position rather than fighting some specific set of moves right now for me.
I think that's actually, especially in Blitz, where
Hmm.
all the moves you've suggested and all the ideas you've suggested are very natural and good ones. And so she starts with rook to b8, which I think is perfect because you're keeping the bishop tied down to the b2 pawn. The bishop can move, but only if it attacks something, and so bishop g5 is still a thought. Though I am concerned about the prospects of b2. Like after bishop g5, even f6 here, is the bishop really going back to c1, or is Yifan going to sacrifice the b2 pawn? So,
um,
I mean,
oh.
I don't know. It's
F6 must be played. Or no, you can play Queen E8, but that doesn't look very comfortable. There's no way I'm playing 97. So F6, yeah.
it's early. It's not that early though. 97
Yeah,
does not seem like a move you want to play now.
for sure. But F6 also feels a little bit, just leaves your king kind of out in the open. But once again, you go King H8 next move and everything should be okay.
She chooses bishop f4, giving up the b2 pawn to play knight to d5. And it's an ambitious try here, but black's knight can go to e5 to close off that bishop. So she plays knight e5 first. That she starts with the moveset taking on b2 and saying, well, if you take on e5 with the knight, I get to take back with my pawn on e5, semi-open f-file for me. And I guess this bishop will go back to c1. It's not the end of the world because it's not like black is way ahead in development or has some sort of attack. So I would actually take on e5 with the knight just to show this on the board, and then drop the bishop to c1, make sure I protect b2, and then say, your bishop on g7. It's that King's Indian style bishop that's stuck behind a wall of pawns. In this case, a pawn on e5. So, it's just, I think knight takes e5 is the best move here, and Sara's now ahead in the clock. So Chi Yu, it's only move 14, but the player is really taking their time trying to figure out all the nuances here.
Yeah, for sure. I think Hoi Fan's using an absolutely she's using a lot of time in a position where the first 3, 4 moves will probably all be roughly equal. Like at this point, you could take on e5 with the knight, you could take with the bishop, you can also not take by playing knight d5, and that'll be okay too. So using so much time is definitely in Sarah's favor because we've seen her play some really, really good high quality blitz games and bullet games.
I agree with that. And one thing I'll note about what Yifan has done so early in this match is she has been willing to give up this pawn b2 two times now. Like this pawn is still hanging, but I guess Sara's not taking it because she hasn't completed her development. So she went d6 first, and now Yifan says, "No, you're not getting that pawn anymore. B4 play. This pawn on c7, Chi, that one looks like a weakness, and I think that White's going to try to pile up on it in the near future."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Um,
And I mean, can't White just
yeah.
like go a4 and just like take more space over there on the queen side?
You probably do. You probably want to try to play a4, b5, and maybe get a pawn onto b5, and then the c pawn will be weak forever. But maybe even simpler than that. We can play something like rook to d1, rook to c1, and just go for it in the middle of the board.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a4 is a possibility, maybe not a necessity. And I was thinking that black can try bishop b5 to trade off this light square bishop that isn't doing too much, but rook ac1 stops that because now the queen and the rook are already lined up on the c7 pawn. So bishop to b5 is an idea if you're saying, well, my bishop, it's on the light squares, but what is it going to attack? There's nothing to attack. Let me just force that knight off from c3. I don't want that knight getting to d5. Now it's not so easy to accomplish with this pawn c7 under attack. So, I mean, what I'm trying to envision what Black wants to accomplish here because the
It's just
bishop
so
on
hard to
G
play.
yeah, the bishop on G7 is locked out of the game because of your own pawn on E5, right? This bishop on G7 is just not doing anything. It's not attacking anything. It's not protecting anything because the pawn E5 is already defended. So I would like to reroute that bishop somehow. It's just that would require me to play bishop F6, then I don't even know where it's going from there.
Yeah. I mean, definitely right now, just White can play it slow with maybe a3, rook c2, rook fc1. The ideas are just coming to roll in for Yifan, but she needs to play a little bit faster. Sarah made the time almost even, but Yifan is spending a lot of time on this move. Spending a lot of time on this move for rook fd1.
Yeah, rook f to d1, just coordinating her pieces, centralizing them. And if I am Sarah, I'm like actually trying to think of some kind of sacrifice. Like bishop h3 doesn't work here, but I already don't like my position so much that I'm thinking of a way to try to open up the king. I mean, knight d5 just happened. Now, how do you increase the pressure? c7 is under attack 3 times. The knight just can't take on c7 because it's pinned to the queen on c4. She plays a3 that frees up her queen, and the queen doesn't need to stay protecting the b4 pawn. She's just kind of working the queen side perfectly at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I think like if there's just what can Black do?
Was that a rhetorical question, or am I supposed to answer that somehow?
It was rhetorical, and also at the same time, I genuinely don't know. I'm like
Um,
just trying to think here. Like anything that Black does is runs the risk of, you know, maybe Queen C6 now.
yeah, queen, just keep it going. Now
You
you're
know what
threatening
this
me
game
to.
reminds me of?
Do I want to know the answer to it? Probably not, but tell me.
This reminds me of the game when we were doing scrims with Box Fox and Skara, and we told them that to run it down mid.
That is exactly what it looks like, and hopefully all these players who are taking part in Twitch Rivals and other chess events learning, they see what exactly what you're talking about. This is on full display. You have full control over the c file, over the d file. Black's piece is not so active. Bishop takes d5, a sad necessity, and after rook takes d5, if you take on d5 with your rook on b5, I just take with my queen, and just so much pressure. Rook coming to c6 for white. Black controls none of the board. White controls most of the important squares.
Yeah, okay, this is just an unfortunate circuit. This is the perfect time when you go for the a6 pawn. And I have very good experience with this. You go for the a6 pawn. Black can't defend it and do things at the same time. So you just go for rook c6, yeah. And, just Black really doesn't want to play queen to a8 or to defend it or anything. There's also no way to defend it because at the very least, if queen a8, this queen c4. And you can't realistically play a5 because of just b5.
Yeah, now you're up a pawn. You still have control over the board. You can just bring your rook back to c6 and start pushing the 8 pawn. Just everything is going right for it. I like bishop h6, all things considered. It's like you need to try to threaten something. There's no back rank checkmate. The rook covers c1. And with that being the case, queen f4 doesn't really threaten anything either. Queen takes d6. You can start taking all the pawns that you like, as long as you just don't blunder a checkmate. Queen f7, she says, let me trade off the queens, and that way I'm up. How many pawns? 2 pawns. The rook's going over to b3. The pawn will push forward. And we saw resignation.
Yeah, very well played game by Yifan. The only thing I would be slightly concerned about, and the only reason that I believe that would be a huge impact to her game would be her usage of time, because Sarah is playing a lot faster.
Right. She is. Sarah's been faster, but unfortunately, with the 5-minute time control, you're not going to get your opponent down into the bullet scrambles that we've seen her been able to come out on top in. So, she is using her time, but Yifan clearly played an excellent first game. And so a rough start for Sarah, but she just had the black pieces. She gets her first chance at the white pieces here. And she's playing this line against the QGD where you put your bishop on f4. That puts pressure on c7. It's an open diagonal. And already Yifan's spending some time here. I wonder what she's trying to recall.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the regular Queen's Gambit decline, as far as I know. Maybe with a hint of the London sneaking in.
Yeah, and c6, so she goes for the triangle, but it was quite a bit of time to play this. So now she's speeding up. So I think she was just trying to figure out what setup she was going for. Now that she's played it, she's going to play more quickly. But Sarah seems to be happy to get in this rook c1. You see that white's queen side is fully developed. The bishop on f1 can go over to d3. She put the pawn on h3 so the bishop can slide back to h2. A very thematic London type of setup. And now Yifan goes knight to e4. So what do you make about this pretty big move, Chiyu?
I like it. When I play it, it never works. But when I see like grandmasters play it, it works for them. So all the props to Yifan for making this work. Because I somehow, I don't know.
So, you're saying that you wish that it was more successful when you did. I feel that about so many openings. I'm with you there.
Yeah. It just doesn't work for me. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't do any, studying for this, but yeah, sometimes it's a lot better when the pros do it.
And so we have a trade on c3. The bishop is on d3 now, so it's staring over at the king side. I just think that these positions are nice for white because you have more space, and you probably will have more space for pretty much the long term.
Hmm.
And I don't know. What do you think that black is going to do? Bishop b7, rook c8, c5 type of maneuver? Is it that simple in this position?
Um, I believe that, it's you can just castle for now, maybe.
True. And,
And after castling, then you can worry about everything else because there's a lot of things you can do. Black will probably play c5, and then white will probably be spending a lot of time, just keeping the position like that. I think white's okay with going for hanging pawn structure. So we might see something like b3, where if black ever plays c5, then you just get that hanging pawns.
mm-hmm.
I feel like that would be the way to go for white here.
Yeah, and she's spending now. She spent quite a bit of time. She spent 53 seconds before castling, and I wonder what her alternative was. I guess you can play queen c2, and you just want to time things correctly because with the queen on c2, there's not really a knight e4 type of jump. But if you castled, maybe then black could have chosen knight e4 and still can. But I think that what white is doing is so logical. Look at the quality of her pieces; they're all on great squares. Black plays c5, and speaking of hanging pawns, we could possibly see black have hanging pawns if there are a bunch of captures in the center here.
Hmm.
And now b4. I would play b4 just to kick this bishop back, gain more space. And if you move your bishop, if you like retreat it, I think white plays c5 and just pushes that one through. So maybe you have to take on c4 here.
Yeah. Well, you could play bishop d6, but then c5 just rolls your position, I think. So definitely d takes c4, and then b takes c5, and then c takes d3, and then we see rook takes d3. I think Sarah's position is a little bit more comfortable here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing c5 right now. I don't even
Mm.
know if it's that great, but if I can get my pawn to c6, which you can't actually stop me from doing, I think I have to do that. c5, my knight on e5 protects the c6 square, so my pawn is just going to rumble up the board here. And for Yifan, she just doesn't really have space for her pieces. After c5, you'd love to make a move like d4, and that actually looks quite tempting, but I'm still looking at c6 as a response. And, well, actually, I'm going to sacrifice my rook on c3 for your bishop on b7, and there are a lot of tactics that seem to play out in white's favor. So it's a big decision, which is why Sarah will spend quite a bit of time here. But if I can just rush my pawn forward, I personally am going for it. And I feel like with the time she's spending here, she's looking at that quite deeply.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And she played it. So we have seen c5 and a trade on the c5 score. So if d4, she will likely just push this all the way to c6, and then maybe even to c7 if you allow it. So
Yeah, so rook c8 probably don't allow it. Cannot allow it. Oh, queen a. Whoa.
yeah, queen a5. She's starting just by attacking this rook, but even rook
This
to
gives all the wrong vibes.
yeah, rook to b3. Honestly, it might just where are you putting that bishop? Because I have knight c6 ideas. This is just feeling like a position that white has to be thrilled to have.
Yeah,
I'm
I do think that if you play rook b3, you can't move the bishop because of knight to c6, in which case you will lose either the a6 bishop or the e7 bishop. So if after rook b3 you play rook a b8.
Yeah, she started with queen c2 and rook ac8, so that's actually good news for black. It still looks like a bad position, but she can
Yeah.
retreat her bishop. She's blockading the pawn to start with, so it's not the worst case scenario, I'd say, but it still is looking very good for white, and she should be thrilled about what she's achieved. So, I mean, personally, I would love to have this position from the white side, and bishop a6 now played because there's no knight c6 stuff. I think you can just take on a6 and play c7. And once you have that pawn in the 7th rank to you, I don't know if it's like objectively winning, but I always feel like I'm winning in a game where I push my pawn all the way through.
Yeah, for sure. If you just put your pawn on c7, it's just so annoying for your opponent. Honestly, at that point, it's even less about am I going to be able to push c8? because you might not. You don't have a light square bishop after bishop takes d3, but it's just the fact that black can't do anything else in this position. It will literally just be you trying to march your pawn down the board.
Right, and c7 was indeed played here, and I don't think that Yifan's going to be very happy about that outcome, but what can you do when you're playing such a strong player? You don't really have, you know, you don't really have the opportunity to be happy at all times, because Sarah is playing excellently. I will bring her up on stream here so we can see how she's doing. She seems pretty chillaxed. Not to use a very colloquial term here. She's just hanging out, putting a pawn on c7. I think that her position is excellent.
Yeah, she is having a good time. She's having good. This is a very easy position to play, like no pressure. Just sit there.
Yeah, and you want to take on c7, but rook takes c7 looks like it wins the pawn because it does technically win the pawn. But note that there's a bishop on f4 staring at this c7 square. So rook c7 just knight to c6, and you're going to have to give up your rook on c6. Otherwise, I'm just going to take your rook on c7, and so white goes up material. So this pawn on c7 is like a huge thorn in black's side, and one that you can't actually remove very easily.
Yeah. This is just, oh my god. I mean, I'm just waiting for white to slowly win this game at this point. At this level, getting to these kind of situations is just, it's like, unless there's some big mistake happens on Sarah's part, it's not a very difficult position to just like slowly convert.
Right. She has more time now, so Yifan's going to struggle with that element as well, under a minute on the clock. So it's essentially a bullet game. You have the 1 second increment to remind everybody that this first time control is 5 minutes plus a 1 second increment, and so you can build up some time if you start pre-moving and moving very quickly, but not that much time. So she played bishop to d6 to Yifan, and rook fc1 is the first move that comes to mind. I'm wondering if there's some tactics, because whenever there's a bishop that's not protected on the d6 square, I'm looking to move my knight out the way and try to win that bishop. I don't see anything working just yet necessarily, because knight c6, the queen comes back and takes c7, and the bishop on d6 is protected.
Yeah, it looks like there's so many discovered attacks there, but sadly there are none.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, apart from that, you could probably play rook c6, just forcing black to do something. If bishop takes c7, you play rook fc1.
Well,
And it's amazing how black just struggles with finding moves in this position.
yeah, and she went knight g6 instead, just trying to force the action here. The bishop now is under attack on d6. If you take on f4, no, white's not going to take on f8 because your knight gets trapped back there. So I wonder what she's going to play here. Maybe knight e7 check and knight takes c8, I guess, is the better way to win the exchange. That way, you win the rook that's in front of the passed pawn, and it's easier to protect. Because if you take on
wait, Sarah only has 20 seconds left.
All right, clock check. I'm glad you pointed it out. She does take this rook on c8, and Yifan only has 25 seconds, but we're getting into mutual time trouble here, and the knight can jump out to e7 and back into c6. So she actually stole an exchange and is getting away with it.
Oh god, the clock. I can't. Oh, wait.
What's happening?
Queen. Oh, wait, queen takes c7?
Uh-oh.
And then the knight is...
Oh no, that one turned around real fast. That's actually Yifan now up a piece. And you were pointing out the clock situation, and now Yifan wins the game. And that's an upsetting one there for Sarah. She had that game. It was an excellently played game by her. She just got her knight trapped and unfortunately lost the game on the spot. I don't have the words.
Wow. I'm slowly starting to wake up.
Yeah.
That was intense. Like, it went from great to not so great in like one move.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate when that happens, because you've like played your best game and you had a sizable advantage, and then you weren't able to convert it, so you feel like, oh, what can I do? What more can I do? I had that win in the bag, and in time trouble you blunder it away. So that's unfortunate for her. A great start for Yifan. We have the same position that we had in the first game, except after d5, Sarah chose knight to a5 rather than taking the bishop. So she didn't like the position she obtained in the first game. And so now we're here. Chiyu, what do you make of this? Bishop on g7, very happy, but white's control the center, also looking good for her.
I do think it's going to be one of those imbalanced middle games where both sides have a lot of good play. As long as Sarah doesn't get into the position she got in last time, where white, just had all the play, then it should be fine for her. Should be fine for her. Just keep the light squared bishop, keep the dark squared bishop. Don't swap those pieces off. Maybe get a knight onto e5 at some point.
Feels like we're asking for a lot, though.
That is true.
It's like I need to get all my pieces working perfectly, otherwise my position is worse. That's sort of how I see this position from Black's point of view. I like the active strategy. It just feels like this knight on a5, this bishop on c8, knight on e7, you're not really working your pieces together super well. And this pawn on e4 dominates this knight on e7. It takes away its forward squares. So I envision Black trying to play c5 at some point.
Wait, bishop takes b2?
She's
baiting it?
Yeah, Yifan's giving up the exchange here. She's saying if you take on b2, so bishop b2, bishop a, or maybe knight c3 first, but I was saying bishop a5, bishop a1, knight c3, your bishop's under attack, and please take me on c3, because then I'm going to go dominate the dark squares on the king side. It's like a very high-level kind of sacrifice, and here it goes. I'm not sure if she'll take on a5 first and then knight c3, or knight c3 right away, but either way, this bishop on the dark squares for Black is being traded off for more material, but the squares are of consequence. Look at all these kingside squares, Chiyu.
Yeah, I mean, this is it would be, yeah, having those dark squares would be really, really strong, and it's just something that you got to decide between taking the material or having weak dark squares for the rest of the game. So
Indeed, and I will bring Yifan back on camera. She seems very focused here, and she is down, what is it, a rook and a pawn for a knight at this point. So if she will have sustained pressure, that's the good news. For example, if Black castles, white can consider queen h6 with knight g5 to follow. Like, there's an attack that's building, and she plays rook b1 to try to get this dark square bishop. And so, Chiyu, would you prefer to have the white side of this position or Black side here in a blitz game?
in a blitz game, definitely the white side, but in a classical game, I would prefer the Black side.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And maybe in a classical game, I would still potentially take white some of the time. But the reason why I think we're both in agreement is that with not so much time on your clock, you get under attack, you freak out, and you make an inaccuracy. With a classical time control, usually you have an hour plus on your clock at this point. You're like, okay, if this attack happens, here's how I parry the threats. Whereas if, let's say, queen h6 happens, you may freak out and say, oh, wait, there's knight g5 coming, I have to play f6, and maybe there's another move at some moment that is probably better. So I think we're in agreement here. I love Black's clock, though. She's up 2 minutes.
I mean, knight e2 is a slightly strange move because I think like something like queen h6 is just something a lot more natural.
Yeah. I think that Black's playing f6 regardless, so no matter if the bishop's on c3 or the queen out to h6, so f6 played. And the reason why is because after queen h6, and I'm just going to make quick moves and then return the position. So queen h6 actually played. You have to play rook f7 because knight g5 is a devastating threat, trying to checkmate on h7. And if you take on g5, then I have queen g7 checkmate with the bishop and queen lining up on g7. So now rook f7 and was played by Sarah. She took a little bit of a think here. It's a really good defensive move. And now the queen can come to f8. Chiyu, unless I'm mistaken, it feels like Black is protecting her kingside, and the advantage should be growing for her.
Yeah, I think so too. I think not getting that bishop off really impacts White's ability to do anything in this position. Because somehow it's just like, it's acting really, really well on c5, and I don't actually see a breakthrough for White here.
I don't either. And the queen came to f8, saying, well, your queen's no longer come back to h6, and knight to d4. So the e6 square is one you want to... Wait, knight e6 now? Uh-oh. Bishop d7 was played too quickly by Sarah. She has so much time on her clock, and knight e6 is a big problem because the f6 pawn is going to fall. The queen is under attack on f8. If you move it, I simply take on f6, and if you take on e6 first, I take with my pawn, which threatens your rook. Your rook has to move, and down goes f6 anyway. So bishop d7 was played too quickly, Chiyu. That's not great time management, in my opinion.
Yeah. This is looking rough for Yifan around everything. The time, the clock, yep, clock. And also, just the position. Bishop takes e6, d takes e6, rook g7, bishop takes f6, g5. That tactic does not unfortunately work.
Yeah, and maybe something you have to do, and that way you don't like lose the exchange that you've already won. But you're giving up several pawns in front of your king just to save your material. That doesn't feel like the greatest choice to make. So after knight e6, she's deep in thought. I think she will take on e6 and play rook g7, and she won't be happy about it. But Yifan, on the other hand, look at Yifan. She doesn't look like she's thrilled. She kind of is just like she's holding her head.
Her head, yeah.
I wonder what she's calculating there. Oh, she sat up immediately after queen to c8 and then took that bishop on c5.
Ooh, wait, this is good for white.
Certainly looks that way. That was pretty interesting to see, and that's the great thing about having the players on camera.
Wait, knight g5 now.
Oh, gosh, you're a bully, Chiyu. Anyone ever tell you that?
I'm waking up.
Yeah, like, we used to think you're a nice person, but knight g5 hits the rook. If the rook takes what looks like a free bishop, the queen takes on h7 with checkmate. Ouch.
Yeah, that is very, very rough.
Oh, that's... Bishop b2 played. I understand that. Just retreating, you have the full length of the diagonal, so the compensation for the rook that you don't have will be permanent. And now if I'm black, I'm playing rook f4 or something. I need some kind of counterplay. I have to play something active, but she's probably worried about queen to g5, queen to e5, and when you have a bishop on b2, lining that up in the long diagonal, which is now open fully, that looks really problematic. So even though rook f4 is a move that may get you some sort of hopeful attacking chances, I don't think it will actually pan out. Rook takes f3, similar idea, right? Just like going for some kind of initiative, but your queen can't even take on f3 now. The 97 is hanging.
Tactics. Yeah, so I was thinking Sarah got a really good position, but then let us slip. So this is one of the dangers of like when you start playing blitz games. It's like you could get good positions, but you don't have enough time to like really be objective about it, and you kind of just play what you feel like, and sometimes it's just not correct because you don't have the time.
Yeah, it's just like sometimes you're playing with your hand rather than with your brain, and that's what happens in these very quick time controls. Like if you had all the time in the world, you'd sit and think and really check out the entire position. Now it's like, well, for white, it's so easy to play this. f5. I'm trying to open up your king. You can't take me on f5 because then you open the g file and you get checkmated. The bishop on b2 is excellent. So black is just really getting crushed here in all facets of this game, and the 5-minute time control is up. So this is the final game of the longest time control.
This cannot be good for Sarah. This is really, really bad for Sarah. Like you're saying, Sarah, you think that Sarah has the chance for the upset. I definitely think she still does, but sometimes when you just get into these games, you don't have. It's not your day.
Right.
It's quite literally just not your day today. And we saw that with Conero yesterday. Like she was better in like most of her games, but it just wasn't her day.
Yeah, it really wasn't. And so far it hasn't been Sarah's day, but look at the time situation. Gee, that actually concerns me a little bit for Yifan, as black's position isn't dead lost just yet. The material is actually somehow even. It doesn't look like it because there are pieces all over the place, but it's even material. Black's king is just way worse, obviously.
Yeah.
And now I'd play queen to d6, or maybe rook to d6, and I see two pieces in the 6th rank. I want to attack them. 14 seconds, though. Yifan's getting really down on the clock here. And queen d6 was a good move, though.
Yeah, and then, even though Yifan only has 30 seconds, she doesn't really strike me as the type of person to blunder under time pressure.
Have you heard of the commentator's curse?
Yes. Yeah, I've done this a lot.
I'm like, I don't think you want to...
I don't want to say it. I'm going to jinx it.
And wait, we have a queen trade.
Wait! I jinxed it. Oh my god, this is no longer...
I feel like black is doing not just okay here. In the next few moves, after knight to d7 to get the f6 pawn, I might start prefer black's position. What about you?
Yeah, no, actually, you're completely correct, because this endgame is completely equal. at the very least.
So what's she doing now? Now knight came to c4. So what trades do you want? She brings your knight to e5, and now we see a trade. I was about to ask, like, does this actually help? Oh gosh, here comes the pawn to e5 though. Can't get that. So king f6 is rook d6 check. So Yifan was able to figure this out pretty quickly, and the rook on h5 misplaced. It's coming over to c5.
Ooh.
Whose pawns are faster?
Also, whose clock is gonna run lower?
I think this rook on h5 is actually just trapped.
Yeah, it is. And I also think that, at some point, oh my God, the beautiful diamond pawn structure, the infamous diamond pawn structure. I don't like this position at all for black. The pawns are just coming down the board.
I don't think anybody likes this position, and it's a resignation, which means the players will get a break. It is now 3-0 in Yifan's favor. So, Chiyu, before we take our break, what do you think? Does Sarah have a chance to get a comeback here? It just feels like it's been all Yifan today.
I do feel like that too. But the thing is, Sarah's been getting good positions. She just hasn't been able to convert them. Or she hasn't been able to grab that one chance and then go for something better.
That's true. Well, she has had good positions. She will need to make the most of them because right now with the 3-0 deficit against one of the strongest players on the planet, it's not looking very promising. However, there's still time to mount a comeback, especially as we get to the quicker time controls. Sarah has proven to be quite a force in them. So we will be back in a few minutes. And for the meantime, enjoy your break. Maybe stretch your legs. Probably it's early if you're living in the U.S. I know it's early for us, Chiyu. But either way, we will be back in just a few. So come back. Stay tuned for more action from this FIDE Chess.com Women's Speed Chess Championship. And we are back, and as we return here, just want to remind everybody that there is a rest day tomorrow, and the final will be July 12th. That is Sunday at 4:30 a.m. Pacific. That's 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. It says 13:30 Central. So, Central European, I should say. You should figure out what time that is for you, but same time as today. That's all you need to know. But Chiyu, we are coming back. We see a 3-0 lead for Yifan. I was just talking during the break that I just read she became the youngest professor in Shenzhen University history. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That is very, very cool. I mean, she's literally women's world champion, and she's also a professor at Shenzhen University. Like, what more could you do in life?
Oh, I was going to say she's an underachiever. It sounds like she's not doing enough. On a serious note, that's so impressive. It's really cool to see, and I'm personally very glad that Yifan is back and playing, and I hope she continues to play more chess. I'm sure her schedule will be extremely exhausting, considering being a professor is not easy and a lot of work. But I hope to see her play more chess, as she's such a great player. She is incredibly talented, and it's always a better chess tournament when she's involved.
For sure, for sure. I mean, her chess play is it's everything, right? Like, she does attacking, she does her, positional play, but she's also just good at the whole thing. And that's kind of part of being a grandmaster in chess and being one of the strongest women chess player.
Yeah.
Arguably in history.
She's really she's versatile, she's well-rounded, as you're saying, and right now for Sarah, that I'm a bit worried for her, because she's down 3 games to none, and not only is that big on the scoreboard, but on your mentality, you go into a game, you feel like I have to start winning, and you're playing somebody who's extremely highly rated. You can't just force victories out of thin air.
For sure. And part of it is also being whether or not the day is going well for you. I know it's a bit of it sounds like you're kind of playing hope chess or something, but a large part of chess is actually being in the zone and being in having the correct sort of flow and mindset. And today it just feels like Hoifan's in it, even though she's playing slightly dubious moves or making slightly dubious suggestions, ideas at sometimes. I just feel like she has a better grasp of the game today than Sarah does.
Yeah, and Sarah still has time to make a comeback. As you see on your screens here, there's 28 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in this 3-minute plus 1 second increment time control. Then we'll get into the 10 minutes of 1+1. That's bullet chess. So in bullet chess, anything can happen. But if I'm Sarah, I need to cut this deficit from its current 3 points to 2 points. I really think that's the place she needs to be. She needs to win this time control by at least 1 game in order for her to have a real chance in the bullet.
For sure. Yeah, and basically this is one of those positions where Sarah actually has a little bit of play. It's a good position for her. She's gonna play e4 once the bishop retreats back. If white doesn't, if white plays something like e5, then bishop e3. Overall, this is all right. This is all right. This is a game where there are imbalances. There's sufficient imbalances for white to be able to try to do something.
Wow, this is a really big position right now, because I'm looking for some sort of tactic. I see the knight protects e4, but I also see the knight needs to protect d7. So I'm looking for some kind of bishop takes d7 tactic or an overloaded pieces. So she plays bishop e3. She doesn't want to change anything too drastically just yet. That's probably the right choice, and you know me. If it's not my game, if I'm commentating on it, I'm happy to sacrifice pieces, but I was looking for some kind of crazy tactical sequence. Instead, she drops her bishop back to e3, which is, okay, please take me on d4. I'll take back with my bishop. My bishop will be nicely centralized, and then my rook can even slide over to e3. So that's why Yifan drops the bishop back to b7. And, what now? That's the question. The bishop's on b7.
What now? What now?
Do you play d5? That seems like it closes off the bishop, but then maybe black plays c6 at the right time. So Sarah's choice here is certainly not an easy one. What would you do if you were white?
I would just decide to maybe play... I don't know, actually. Now that the bishop is back and I look at this position again, what pieces can I move?
She takes an e5.
Okay.
And I wonder why she felt the need to do that. I mean, was there some kind of e takes d4 moment that scared her? I'm not sure. but she takes their. She might be playing for c5 at some point. Doesn't work with knight d5. Possible for black, hitting the rook, hitting the bishop. So c5 not a possibility just yet. She plays f3. Just not a move that I feel like you want to play. So Chiyu, it does feel like Yifan's pieces are working together extremely well. White's pieces, on the other hand, Sara's trying to figure out where her pieces belong, but as of yet, she hasn't found the answer to that question.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I think she's trying to push maybe c5 in that position, but the knight c5 just blocks it, and you don't actually have.
Yeah, that's a shame. c5 would have been nice for white. And now is black going to play e4? That's like where my entire focus goes. She says no. I'm going to retreat my knight to e6, and I can still play e4 later. And I can also think about knight to d4. So black feels very flexible, and her position seems strong. White can't really play e4 herself, because if she does that, then the knight gets into d4 and can never be kicked. And c5 was her choice. So, Chiyu, it's getting more tactical. Do you think that favors Sara, especially as we're getting to about a minute each?
I don't know. Like, I feel like when it gets more tactical and when time starts running down, it becomes more of a gamble. It becomes more of a coin flip than anything else.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what, maybe that is what Sara needs.
I kind of agree with that. It's there, of course, as the game of chess, you want to be objective, you want to evaluate, you really want to calculate everything you possibly can. But with 40 seconds on your clock, you don't have time to do that. So if she plays rapidly here, like, you have to move the rook, I think. Your rook's under attack. Where to move it? She has rook c4. Not an easy move to play, because it looks like you're walking into some kind of b5 or bishop a6. You're inviting more attacks on this rook. And, well, now what? Rook h4? Like, it doesn't... Oh, she does it.
Wait, this is good for black now. Knight takes c5, and, white's pieces just feel so disjointed.
You're telling me you don't like a rook on h4 and a bishop on h3?
Yeah. Not particularly. I don't know. I don't know about you. How do you feel like it?
No, I don't like it at all. The one thing that I'm looking out for is, can I potentially sacrifice or get an attack on h6? But the answer is no. She plays knight to b3, and now you can't take on a5 because queen c5 check. So she had to drop her knight back. She still has a chance to go knight e4 next move. She needs to fully develop her pieces, right? Her pieces are all off, from the starting squares, but they're just kind of stuck. They're cramping each other's style. So knight e4 next would be a huge play for her. And Yifan is under now 15 seconds. She plays, or I guess she's 17 and a half. It just it's getting close there. Okay, so bishop f5. I would play bishop f5 and go rook takes h6. I know I'm playing pure bullet stuff. There it is. Step one. Okay, can I get rook takes h6? Probably not. I'm asking for too much.
I think that's too much. I think it's like something you want to make it work in a blitz game, but it doesn't work because of bishop takes e4, for example. Like, you gotta just get rid of those pieces that white has in order to keep playing. But oh wow, this is
bishop f3. She found it, and how is it?
Oh!
There's no checkmate yet. The king somehow is safe on f1 for the time being, and queen d3. You have to trade queens. She plays it, and what do we make of this? What's the situation here? Only one extra pawn. And here comes rook c1. Wait a second. This feels like white really isn't that much worse, despite being a pawn down. So rook a5.
I think white is going to be
rook a8 checkmate! Rook a8 was checkmate! The h7 square was off limits! Oh my gosh. Oh, it was checkmate. She somehow still regained the material, but that was checkmate.
This is a draw now, but...
Oh. It's funny because those kind of situations happen. You never expect your opponent to blunder checkmate at one, especially not.
I mean, it's not even the first time we missed checkmate one, checkmating two. Well, I think, what was her name? Irina missed checkmating two against Sara.
Yeah.
2 days ago. But this is the thing. This is the part about playing such a strong tournament. You never expect your opponent to make mistakes like that.
Yeah,
you just don't look for them.
You're also playing a bullet time scramble there, so I'm going to bring up
That
that
is
game
true.
very quickly. It's like you're playing to make a draw. Like you've been worse, and so when Rook takes B2 happens, you have 7.9 seconds. You make this move in a second. Rook takes A4. You're not even thinking. You're already kind of pre-moving in your mind. Rook takes A4, and so you don't get the checkmate that is available. If you gave her 5 more seconds, she's going to play it. And just in a bullet time control there, it's hard to just get your mind on being like, wait, Rook takes B2. Oh, now I have to readjust myself and then go for the checkmate because you never expect that to even be a possibility. So Sara does get on the scoreboard. That's the good news for her. The bad news is she didn't get a victory. So what do you make of her chances now? Should she be more confident? She did just play G5 in this game.
She really... Whoa, she is going for a... What?
You don't like this decision to go all out? No?
I support whatever she plays.
You're such a good person. You're just so supportive of her efforts here. She is just trying to play G4 and go after the king that's on G1. So Sara's plan here is quite straightforward. And I actually think in a blitz game, it can be harder to play this from white side. But you seem to like white's chances.
I think just D4 and you just like go. You just go. Like I think at this point I've kind of established myself as like I like that traditional school of thought. I like going for an attack once my king is safe, once everything is established, once the center is closed, and if that doesn't happen, I will play the position objectively until that point. So while I love to attack, I'm the kind of person who will set it up, and this is I just want white to play D4 because an attack on the flank is best countered by an attack in the center, and this is looking sketchy with.
I'm like trying to get some kind of queen takes H4. So like knight takes E4 doesn't work because there's rook takes here. So knight G4 played. There are ideas with queen takes H4 Chiyu, and queen F3 says, well, not so fast. F7 is under attack.
I just think that when you're playing like these kind of games, if you're putting attacks on a flank, your immediate reaction should be to counter in the center. With D4 or something like that. But maybe Yifan saw something that I didn't see.
And I think to your point, Chiyu, is that because it's an attack on the flank, look at the knight on G4, the rook on G8, your pieces are distracted. So if you can open up the center, where black's king still is, that could prove to be disastrous. And so a move like D4 is always in consideration. Here it's not because like you just lose a pawn on the square, but I understand your point completely, and I think that Yifan eventually will try to play for that D4 break. And, well, knight e3, one of these knights is trying to go to f5, the knight on e3 is trying to go to d5. You have to be very careful here for Sara.
Yes. Yes, this is... I do think that Sara's position is just fine. And if Yifan never pushes the d4 pawn, the king in the center... Like, we say... There are 3 opening rules, right? You control the center, you develop, and then you castle. But at some point, the castling rule kind of goes out the window if you're a high enough level, because you can judge for yourself if your king is actually weak or safe in the center of the board. And in this case, if Yifan never opens up the center of the board, the king is chilling on e8.
Right. And the king actually can go to d7, to your point. Like if the king gets to d7, you can bring this rook from a7, swing it all the way over to the king side. I'm still looking at your d4 move, though. Like at some point, you got to make d4 happen. You just can't with this bishop hanging on c4. So it's kind of a weird sort of, we both know what's coming, but how can we make it work?
Yeah. You know, now the fact that the bishop's on c4, you can never push d4, which is once again something you would love to do, but it's actually really hard to open up the center now because black's knight is just doing amazing on g4 and white's just trying to hold this position together.
And if you ever take on e6, after f takes e6, you've opened up the f file, and that's going to be very bad for white because there'll be eventually rook f8 or rook a8 to f8, things of that nature. So she's opening up the queen side. Black has opened up the king side a bit, not fully, right? White has actually kind of closed it off for the most part now, though black is up a pawn. Don't forget about that. And b5 is trying to say, please, please, please take me on b5. I'll take back with my a pawn and open up my rook on that side of the board.
But do you think a5? But a5 doesn't look good because of b6 immediately. So maybe we can just see it sit there.
Might have to. And you're good. You're absolutely right to point out b6 is such a nasty threat because you undermine the defense of this pawn on d6, and my knight would love to scoop off that pawn. So
Mhm.
King to d7 comes to mind, where you're protecting the pawn on d6. Even though I know king d7 looks a bit risky, is it any less safe on d7 than it is on e8? I don't think so. So I'd be looking there. And only 30 seconds, now less, for Sarah. So Chiyu, it's a big lead on the clock for Yifan. You're happy about her control of the center.
Uh-huh.
This could be trouble for Sarah now.
For sure. I mean, this is her time is just running down. It's just running down, and that's why it concerns me more than the nature of the position, because up to now we've just seen a lot of time scramble. Like, it feels like in a time scramble, you can get away with a lot, and I think that's what I'm more worried about.
I mean, in a time scramble, speaking of that, I'm worried about White's king more than Black's, actually, which is
For
weird.
sure, yeah.
It's weird because we've been so focused on Black's king being in the center, but this king is actually ensnared. So if I can get a back rank check, like, my next move might be rook a8. Like, rook a8 right now, you can't take me because queen c1 will be checkmate down here. So rook a8 is a possibility, and I think that you should be on the lookout for it.
Yeah, how does White even get out of this? She doesn't, right? Like, there's just no way for her to do it.
I was looking at queen takes h4, it didn't work, but you opening up the g file is tempting. Instead, we're here.
Ooh, maybe now queen f8. Just like trying to like annoy Black.
And you're trying to go queen b8 or something.
Yeah.
h2 check looks reasonable. How about queen f6?
Ooh.
Wow, she played them with 8 seconds on her clock. She's threatening queen takes g3. If the queen takes on f2, there's queen takes h4. The g pawn is pinned. Wow, what a tactical shot there by Sarah.
I think this is winning.
Oh my gosh, what a tactic.
I do think this is winning for Black. That was a very, very nice spot. I do not trust that move, but it might actually be a draw, no?
Where's
knight f3 now.
Oh, knight f3, queen g2, the king comes to e3. That is scary, but it might work. Queen f4.
Wait, queen takes f4?
And
then just rook to h1?
Oh, you can't go rook g2 check. Oh gosh. I still think that Black has good chance. Ooh, well, and the knight's coming to f. Okay, I thought I was going to f5. I was saying, and Black has chances to hold this because you will have 2 pawns for the knight. Wow, I feel like Black must have had something more there, but maybe Yifan kind of figured out a way to hold off.
Yeah, I don't know. Was king f2, like, I mean, that was just a move you would never expect. It's not like when your king gets attacked, you're like, let it get more attacked. But sometimes that's the way to go, because you can always run to the other side. Like, you're going to lose the knight anyways. You might as well as not have to deal with the fact that, you're also getting checkmated along the same time.
Right. And here comes rook b8 check, and actually this pawn on b4, I can't tell if it's a strength or a weakness just yet. It looks like a strength. Knight e6, king c4. Knight takes f4, rook a3, she plays it. Wow, it's a bullet game right now. 2 seconds.
Oh god, time, yep, clock.
And here comes the b pawn. Rook a2 check, followed by b2 is next.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
She's getting really low there. Oh my gosh, she got the move up barely. How is she not lost in time yet? Play rook b3. Play rook b3. No, rook b3 was a really smart bullet move.
I can't.
Oh my gosh. Like, I'm gonna go back after this game is over. I'm gonna show you some.
For us, the clocks are at 0, but like once again, I don't know. Like, it was at 000 3 times.
It just when it's getting to the server, and so she made it work. I am going to. I know you're freaking out a little bit. I'm going to pull up that position because I want to show a cheapo bullet tactic that works out plenty of times. So in this position here, after knight c3, king to d3, you're going to win this pawn on b2, and White had 1.7 seconds left. So playing rook b3 is actually a really hard move to meet because you're trying to play rook takes b2. Maybe you're hovering and you will take the rook, but you're losing no matter what. So you might as well give up your rook in a position like that, or rook takes c3 check, something of that nature.
And hope your opponent did not made a pre-move.
Exactly. It's cheap. It won't work most of the time, but if you're just completely losing, sometimes you have to go for things like that. You just don't have a choice. And we saw Hikaru Nakamura win the Speeches Championship Grand Prix on Tuesday by doing something similar. It's a very smart tactic to do in time trouble.
I feel like sometimes I need to play some bullet to understand this better, because I refuse to play bullet for precisely this reason. Like, I would be so upset if I lost to something like rook b3, but at the end of the day, it's all part of the game. but I just can never play bullet because my mindset is not directed there. And for a lot of these classical players, I think I can say the same for them. If you don't play a lot of online chess, if you're not familiar with like these bullet tricks, you just straight up don't do it. And like also at the end of the day, it's partly about just what you grew up doing. And
Right.
bullet was not part of most of classical players' trainings.
Yeah, it's that at that point it's all about mouse speed rather than necessarily about tactics. And there's a combination, of course, but in that moment when you play a move like Rook B3, which is objectively a horrible move in terms of just pure chess reasons, but in terms of having 1 minute on the clock or 1 second on the clock, you make a move like that, somebody's not expecting it, they lose on time. And you have seen players like Daniel Naroditsky, one of the best bullet players on the planet, and many other players of that caliber, they do things like that, and they know the right moment to do it just to catch their opponent off guard. And
It's just crazy how different bullet is from classical chess, and it's practice at the end of the day.
for sure. And here we are in this position. I once again like Sarah's position. She has the majority in the center. You see 2 pawns here on d4 and e4. Black has an extra pawn on the queen side, and that's very useful for endgames. This is not an endgame, despite the fact that the queens are off the board. This is just a queenless middle game. There's 2 rooks, 3 minor pieces per side. That's not endgame territory yet, so...
We just call it end game and go.
I like that. It's the endgame and go. Let's just...
Yeah, like a queen's off the board, yeah, it's pretty much an end game for me.
And that a lot of people think that way, but there's still much more tactical life in a position like this. Your king can't just go running across the board with so many pieces still present. And by the way, Sarah's up over a minute on the clock here. So this has to be her game, right? No? Maybe?
I don't know.
Maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. We'll got a maybe out of you. I feel good about it now. So I'm trying to think, what's Black's next move?
Bishop e3, we go for the b6 pawn.
That looks smart. I'm also looking at e5. Can I get away with that? Because if you take a bunch of times in e5, the b6 pawn will hang anyway. So I think that's possible. I don't know if it's good, though. It's a very committal choice. The bishop on b7 would be very happy to see the move e5. It'll have an open diagonal. But if you can force the action in a way that just strictly benefits white, then e5 looks like a pretty nice move. And rook e1 played. Maybe setting up e5 now. At least that's what I think she's going for.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, if king f7, we'll see something like... I don't even know what we'll see after king f7. Like, rook e1 is such a one... Oh, it's such a one-move idea, I was going to say, that if king f7 would have just stopped it completely. But I guess now's the perfect time for white to play d5.
Okay, d5 is something to look at. I guess d5... Whoa! Look at that move. Bishop a5. Caught you off guard, didn't it?
It's too early for this.
The point was the pawn on b6 is pinned. You can capture an a5, but you are ruining your pawn structure and then losing this bishop on b7. So what has just happened in the last few moves? And
Wait, is it bishop takes d6 and then e5? Just...
It looks pretty promising to me. So bishop a5. What if we get a repetition of bishop a5, bishop b4 check?
It would be really ironic because bishop b4 and then bishop d6, bishop takes d6 is completely winning for white.
Is it winning? I mean, so you take on d6, the king's out there, you get e5, but I don't know, it's not game over just yet. It looks bad though, I have to admit. That looks really bad.
Oh, I mean, okay, completely winning is a bit of a stretch, but if you move your king anywhere, he takes f6 and then you just pile up on the e-pawn. I think it's just a very promising endgame for you because, it's just, yeah.
And something strange has happened where white stole the a6 pawn, but black was able to take the e4 pawn, which has to be an advantageous trade based on the quality of the pawns, but I don't like black's configuration here. Knight b8, trying to get to a6 or c6 to maneuver. I think knight c4 comes to mind here for white. She plays it, and there's knight a6. I mean, that's not really a square you want your knight. It's just off on the side.
Knights on the rim are...
They're dim. I've heard that before. And what do you do as black? You're stuck. You have 22 seconds, or 24 seconds, I was going to say. I was counting down. She made a move so that she had 1 second on the clock. Here comes knight e3, bishop c4 to follow, putting pressure on e6. It just feels so much easier to play this position for white.
Mm-hmm.
Don't blunder your bishop. She doesn't. Now bishop c4. Then try to get d5. Maybe d5 right away even. d5, e takes knight f5. She says no. Rook c7. I'm trying to sacrifice her pieces. She won't let me. Uh-oh. She sacrificed, but not really intentionally. No. That's like super unfortunate.
Wow. Oh no, not this. Not this. I just think like Sarah is slowly losing the thread of the match. I mean, it's been rough for her for sure. She's had great positions in every single game, but Yifan is just such a, tenacious player and doesn't slip up. She doesn't slip up.
No, she's just playing accurately, and kind of in moments where Sarah has been able to capitalize, she's failed to do so. And Yifan, on the other hand, she's been able to survive tough positions and win ones where she's had an advantage. So, yeah, this is now just a clean exchange, and there's back rank problems with Rook A1. I guess you can play King F1, King E2 very quickly. Just, Bishop A5 coming. Nice try, but Rook B7, there's Rook takes E1. Oh, tactics. Tactics everywhere.
Oh, no.
It's an exchange and a pawn now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she was very, very excited. Sarah, like she mentioned a few days ago, she was very excited to play against all these strong players because, and she is definitely one of the newer, like super strong female players. So I think even aside from the fact that this match is not growing great for her, getting to play Hoi Fan and getting all of these really good positions must mean something at least. At least I hope it means something.
Yeah, it definitely does. She is relishing the opportunity. She was able to defeat Zhu Wenjun yesterday, so she's already had a successful event. And going against Yifan is going to be tough for anybody. And right now it's a 5-game lead for Yifan. I said that Sarah needed to get within 2 points to have a chance at this match. Right now she's down 5 and only 4 minutes and change in this 3+1 time control.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's getting to be around that time where she just needs to win games. A draw is the same as a loss at this point. So she kind of has to go for it. I don't know how she's going to go for it in the black side of this position. She has less space. White is playing principal chess, the Chi-Yu style of chess. Pawns in d4 and e4, looking very good.
I like it. It's looking like a Spanish. I know it wasn't the Spanish, but it looks like it, and that's what matters to me.
As long as it looks like it came from that opening, Chi-Yu is happy.
Yeah, exactly. If it looks like this, where you have, your bishop on c2, you got this d4, e4 pawn structure, and you got your knights on f3 and g3, and a bishop on e3, could not be happier.
Even if you were down 3 pawns in the process, or
no, I need equal pawns. Okay, that's kind of a given.
You said what made you happy, so I was wondering if I could steal a couple of your pawns and you'd still be happy. It was just a question. I wasn't expecting any answer in any direction. So Queen d2, lining up. You're not really going to sacrifice on h6, but sometimes you can. So also giving yourself the d1 square for rook to take over the file that will break open at some point if you ever take on e5. So I just like White's position. You are playing with more space. You have better control of the center. Black's pieces don't have actually clear spots to go to. You wanted to play knight g5. That was probably the point of bringing your knight to h7. But White said, you're not getting that so quickly. I have 3 pieces attacking the g5 square, which is why knight h4 was played. You can trade knights, then try to bring the next knight into g5. I still prefer White's position.
Yeah. I am most definitely not enjoying black here. I mean, it's just like it has all the elements of Spanish, but it went wrong just because White's center is so strong. Like usually when you play the Spanish as black, you have all these chances to take on d4, make the e4 pawn weak, and then slowly hit back in the center or push something like d5. But I think in this case, White's just too well coordinated for it. And especially on a move like knight h2, this is the perfect time usually for black to play d5, but in this position it doesn't even work because of d takes e5. And that's partly because like, it's just coordination of pieces really. It's even hard for me to explain why d5 doesn't work in this position, but it works in other Spanish positions. But it comes at the end of the day, it comes down to like how good is your piece coordination? Is your queen on D8? Do you have your bishop, light square bishop out? Is your rook, are your rooks connected?
Well, the answer to that question for white is yes, yes, and yes, because you look, white's rooks are connected, f4 was just played, and f4 is a great defensive move. People are like, wait, defensive move? What are you talking about? Well, there was some attacking potential for black with a knight g5, maybe a sacrifice on h3, so f4 is simultaneously a defensive and aggressive move because you're trying to open up the f-file, swing your rook to f1, you gained even more space and more control of the board. So I really like moves like f4 there, and here comes knight g5. You have to at least threaten some kind of sacrifice in g2 or h3. It's not going to work out necessarily, but you need some kind of initiative, otherwise you lack space, your pieces aren't fully developed, your queenside's doing nothing over there. I mean, this is just the perfect scenario for white. And
Rook a1, nice center, nice half open files. It's good stuff.
Just full board control at this point. I'm looking at knight f5. There it is. You can't take with the knight on f5 because after e takes, your bishop would be pinned on the e file. So you would have to take with your bishop on f5. And then I'm worried. Wait, knight takes h4?
Wait, what? Wait, whoa. This is way too dang. Wait, but you lose a knight at the end of all this.
Yeah, so you're down a piece for a pawn. You will win the h3 pawn as well. I think this is just like she's hoping that it would amount to something because her position was already very bad. So Sarah was like, you know what? Just take my piece. I'm in trouble. I'm going to go for an attack. And sometimes the threat is stronger than the execution. And a position like this may evidence that, where white is better, if not winning already. And black's like, I've taken 2 pawns. Your king isn't the safest position it possibly can be. You don't have pawns in front of it. So hopefully I can strike and you don't have so much time on your clock to deal with it. Yeah, you're not a believer at all. You're just like, nope. Your facial expression does tell the full story. And, well, I mean, let's think about this, right? Black does have some attacking chance. Like d5 now will be met by e5. But at some point, you can play a move like d5 to try to open even more of the board up. I agree that, of course, white is better here. It's just maybe not the easiest conversion, despite the fact that you are so much better.
I do think that maybe the time will play an issue into this, and it's actually okay for black to do stuff like this. Like once again in Blitz, right? We're not analyzing this like a classical game anymore. Right. We just go for this stuff.
Yeah, sometimes this is what you have to do, and queen f2 is a great move. Again, protecting and attacking. You're putting pressure on f7 while defending g3 and the king side. Rook f4, watch out for rook h4.
Yeah, you gotta play bishop e6. I just think that, like, you know, whenever you attack, you should be going for the rule of having more than 2 more pieces as an attacker than your opponent has as a defender. And as we can tell, Sarah definitely does not have that. White has all of her pieces over here. This is just...
Yeah, f5. And that's a move she played because her queen was under attack, and if queen g5, there was knight f3, and the queen
Okay. E takes f6 definitely doesn't work, so gotta play knight f3. Oh, wait, oh, it still does work. It does work. It does work. King g2.
Oh my gosh, what a move, king g2. Wait, no, got no move. I was trying to come up with a move. Didn't have one. Queen e8, there's f7 check. Wow.
You can just take on e1. I mean, it's just...
Oh, there's a bishop there. Duh. I was like, oh, f7
I mean, you know,
check.
you saw that. You wanted to play f7 first, just to bait the queen away, and then take the queen, and then take the rook. I understand.
I was being fancy, okay, everybody?
Yes.
And now the position is just an extra piece for 2 pawns. Still some chances to hold in an endgame like this because with all of white's pieces on one side of the board and black having a 4-on-4 there, there's actually are chances to hold in an endgame like this, especially in mutual time trouble.
And especially because it's also like just, you know, like Robert has said, it's 10 seconds to 14 seconds. Anything could happen.
Anything can happen. And, well, what's white's move? So bishop to d3, and now takes. Don't take with the king. There's d5 check. Here, move the bishop away. And 2 bishops versus 1 bishop, if all the pawns are gone, is a draw. So what black wants to do is somehow get all the pawns off the board. Not going to happen, though. Bishop g4, and then bishop c8. Like, you can go win these queenside pawns. Oh, here's bishop g4 check.
All right, the pair of bishops are going to steamroll now with bishop c8. Yep.
All these pawns are in light squares. Yeah, that's a problem, I must admit. And
slight problem.
A little bit of an issue there. And here come the queenside pawns, just going to promote b5, b6, b7, b8. Can't really stop that. It's one check. King comes back. You get your pawn to h3. Big deal. King h1 or king h2. It doesn't matter. And then you can't even play g3 now. So the pawn is promoting. And Yifan is going to take this one. She does. And hey, Chi, with that, it is 6.5 to half in Yifan's favor. She seems like she's in pretty good form at the moment.
You could say that. That's one way to put it, Robert. That's one way to put it.
It's good to see. It really is good to see when Yifan's playing her best. She is an absolute, just unfortunate wrecking ball to face. She's just going to challenge you in every single game. But she's up 6 points. Chu, you and I are going to take a break. And when we return, we will have the bullet portion. And a reminder to everybody that after this bullet portion, it's 1+1, time which over 10 minutes, we will have another semifinal matchup between Katerina Lucknow and Alexandra Kostenyuk. So more great chess awaits you.
Sounds great.
And we are back, ready for the bullet portion of this match. We know that Yifan, she's out to a 6.5 lead over Sarah. And, well, sometimes these things happen. It's one player's day, it's not the others. Yifan is super strong, so Sarah should not hang her head at all. She should be very proud of herself for getting here. And despite the fact that she will lose this match, she will have a consolation match, a third place match, taking place on Sunday. So she still has much more chess ahead of her.
Yeah.
And we are off into the bullet. This is going to be fun. Chu, I don't know about you. I love commentating bullet games because I get to talk like I'm running an auction. And the moves are happening really fast. And sometimes you freak out. Sometimes you're just like, here is what is happening. Well, we have the Benoni.
I do think at some point in bullet, I just stopped talking about the moves and I'm reacting. I'm like a React Andy, but to the game. Because it's just too much. Like, wait, what is Queen D1? Is that normal? I don't know Benoni theory, so.
I mean, I'm not exactly the Benoni theoretician. That's not my role. But in general, when you see a Benoni, you see this pawn on d6. That's permanently a problematic one for black. However, the bishop on g7 is a great piece. It's a long diagonal. So I actually think this is one of the openings where engines favor white by quite a lot. And in reality, it's very difficult to actually play them because look what black has just accomplished, b5, c5.
It's like the King's Indian too. It's like any of these like hyper-modernish openings where you give white a lot of space, but then as black, you just react later.
Exactly. And the engines, with perfect play, maybe they can actually seize that kind of advantage. But with human play, you think, wait, what's actually so great about white's position? It looks good. I have one more pawn in the center of the board, but black has great counterplay. Rook a8 coming down to a3. You can kick that knight from c3, then bring your other rook over to a8. To me, this looks just great for black.
For sure. I mean, this is just a very nice, like it's just everything that black has ever wanted. He's got the pressure with the rooks along the a file. He's going to play rook a2. He's going to get a rook to the second rank, which we all know is really, really important. And then he also has this pass pawn on c4, and white's bishop on f1 is quite literally doing absolutely nothing.
I like that bishop on f1. You take your words back. That hurts. No, the bishop.
I'm sorry. I apologize to the bishop on f1. It's doing his best. He's doing his best.
The bishop on f1 is horrible. It's actually blocked by this pawn on c4. That pawn on c4 is like the best piece on the board. It keeps the bishop restricted. It takes away squares from the other white pieces. Just don't blunder your rook on a2. She doesn't. She plays rook a1. We'll see a trade down here. And I think you just move your knight back. Knight to d7. Just simple moves. She's gonna play something else based on how much time. She went knight to d3. So you can take with the bishop, take with the queen. I think white has gotten out of this.
Yeah, I think white has. Wait, what?
Yeah, the decision to play knight d3 was probably not optimal.
I mean, it's 15 seconds, 20 seconds. At this point, it's coin flip again. But I think this coin flip is going in Sarah's favor. There's like
take that.
Wait.
And get a queen. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely going in Sarah's favor. She's now up a piece.
As long as she doesn't blunder the knight right back. Okay.
She does not. And knight c5. I like that move knight c5 because the b5 pawn has been hanging. I just wouldn't want to give the black queen all these squares to enter from. So watch out for f3.
There's so much tactics here, but I mean, queen f3 is amazing. Amazing move.
Knight d3. That's it. That's all you needed to coordinate here.
Well, maybe Sarah has chances in the bullet part, but she doesn't need 6 games. And if Hoifan's just gonna draw this out, like quite literally. Wait, whoa. Okay, it doesn't work because of queen.
King h1 only move. Wait, what? They're making a draw? Oh. Chiyu, you still with me?
Yeah.
It's one of those positions where if you gave Sarah another minute, she'll play king h1 and try to win the game.
Sure.
But with her king kind of being in some trouble there, potentially checkmates happening, she was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And also, to be fair to her, she's already down 6 points in the match, so even if she won the game, she can't actually come back. So she probably just mentally is like, what the heck. I want to win games, but it doesn't make a difference overall.
I do think at the end of the day, Sarah's just... It's a bullet game, which means it's just really hard to find any of these moves. It's easy as commentators to look for these kind of stuffs, these kind of ideas, and as viewers to look for them because they don't have the pressure of having already played the other half of the game. Like we're looking at each move, like it's a move.
Right.
But for them, it's like it's been the entire game. So it's definitely not right for us to be making any assumptions here.
Yeah, and sort of when we get surprised, we, like you said, we don't have the burden of actually playing the game. We just have to
Mhm.
talk about the moves. Say, hey, that move looks good. They're like, wait a second, I've been thinking about this idea for the last 4 moves. I was looking 6 moves ahead here. Oh wait, it's not working out now, or I'm still going with that because I'm playing bullet. So I'm just playing just
Mhm.
quickly, and sometimes you make mistakes. I'm with you there. And here, knight to d7, attacking the bishop. Let me see, the rook on d4, the knight on c3. This looks actually really problematic for white. Oh, nice move though, knight d5.
Yeah. Wow. Holy Fed is really not taking a break here with her tactics. I mean, not all of her tactics have actually worked, but she's not taking a break either way.
No, she isn't. And yeah, this is just another game for Yifan that seems to. Well, actually, I like this still for black. It's you're going to win this b3 pawn, but in bullet, the dark square control is really good. And well, now rook takes c5 or pawn takes c5, but the a6 pawn is hanging. So maybe it's not that good for black. I thought it looked good. You have the more advanced pawn, so that's the good news. Is that play queen d5, play c4, and try to win this queen endgame. It's even material, but oftentimes the endgame is about pawn quality, not the quantity. And this c4 pawn is better than the a pawn. It's more queen d1 take on a4. Now this, you both have the quality and the quantity. Couldn't get any better than this.
Wow. This is gonna be Sarah's win. With also 10 seconds up on the clock.
Yeah,
Unless they get a draw with queen d4 and then queen b2 and then maybe queen e5.
Yeah, you do have to watch out for these checks, as Chu is pointing out. Once you get queen e5 check, there's going to be a lot of these checks, and the king may not be able to run away. I think your king can, and well, that queen d2 is check, and can you just push that pawn? I think.
Or you can just take on e3 to also secure e5.
Ooh, didn't like h5.
Yeah, this is making it complicated, but once again, there is queen 2.
I was going to take on f3. She's going to instead playing for c2, but there's king g2 and e4. Oh, queen b3 coming. Clever.
That's a good move. Okay.
c2. King g7. Nice. And it's just...
Wow, this technique is really good especially for a bullet game. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's not going to be 100% perfect, but I think that she's done a great job here. King here, now queen d5. Wait, the pawn's hanging on c2. Queen e4 check. She takes an e5. I thought queen e4 would be a winning pawn in game, but I may have miscalculated there. Wow, it was going really well for her, but now her pawn's missing.
I think this might be a draw. Oh, I don't think that's... Oh, wait, okay, this is a draw. I totally thought myself about it. Yeah, this is a complete
f6.
draw, okay.
No, it's not. King g4.
Oh, she blundered. She had to play h3 there.
Yeah, king h3 was the tempting move, but it was the wrong one.
Yeah, she forgot there was a double pawn.
And that means
She was trying to win that.
Sarah's going to take this game, unless she stalemates, which won't happen. Watch. I'll show actually. While we get to the next game up, I'll come back to this one really quickly, because in the end here, the stalemate I'm talking about is king g2, king e2, king h2. If you have auto queen on, which many people do in bullet, if you get a queen, that's stalemate. So you'd have to under promote to something, or after king h2 play f4. So when the king comes here, then you get a queen with check. But just these little cheeky bullet things, that would be stalemate. So let's go to the live game. Here we have another Benoni being played, and Sarah with the white pieces. I like her position again. I really am just not a big Benoni fan, to be honest. I think structurally it is a big problem. You give up the bishop pair in this line, and you have this pawn on d6. That's a problem. However, in bullet chess, I think it is a very dangerous opening.
Yeah. And, it's just like right now, Sarah just wants some points back, even though the match is completely winning for Yifan. There's just no way to get 5 games in the next minute. But I think Sarah put up a really good fight. She had lots of good chances on every single game. And we're saying there was something that was working out for Sarah, but it was just whew.
Yeah, you're right. She did play many good games, and she was it game 3. What was the game where she got her opponent all the way down to c7? That was this was maybe the second game of the match. And I actually think that's what turned the match completely in Yifan's favor. I think that even if Sarah was able to convert that game, that Yifan probably still would win the match. However,
Mhm.
I think that was deflating for her.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a lot of mental. It is a lot of mental.
Yeah, and here I'm looking at the time. We have just over 10 seconds remaining. This will be the final game of the bullet. So Yifan, she will move on to the final to face the winner of the next match coming up that will start actually as soon as this game is done between Katerina Lucknow and Alexandra Kostenyuk. So
Yeah. I mean, like obviously we're still invested in the game, but the match is more or less over for Sarah, and we will be seeing immediately after this game ends. Actually, we're going straight to the match between Katarina and Kostanuk. I have heard that the other few days we've talked, right? Katarina has really good chances of beating Kostanuk. Do you still feel that way today?
I think yesterday I went with Lucknow as my choice. I'm still going to go with that pick for now. I might change my mind as soon as we see the score after a couple games. But I think that Katarina's been playing excellent chess. She seems determined. Kostenyuk is amazing. I can't really kind of argue against her in any way. And so I don't know is my answer. I just didn't want to. What was that?
Mhm.
Oh, bishop b4. Nice tactic there by Yifan. I just didn't want to kind of have a cop out by saying, oh, both players can win. So I'm going to stick with Lucknow.
All right.
How about you?
Yeah, I think so too. I do think so too. I think I wasn't really impressed with Kostanyk's play yesterday. Not to take away from a insane ability to play speed chess or anything, but she was getting a lot of worse positions against Koneru, and I could really feel like it just wasn't Koneru's day more than Kostanyak was doing really well.
Yeah. I mean, you're right because Humpy had plenty of chances in that match. It just, like you said, didn't go her way and it wasn't her day. And here, what's going on? It looks like both kings are kind of exposed. Bishop f5 play. Watch out for rook h6 check. So you need your queen and your bishop covering the h6 square. Otherwise, there'd be a checkmate. c3 played, saying, why don't I just push my pawns? b4, b3. I wouldn't mind that. Bishop f8, trying to checkmate along the g file. Yeah, this is starting to look even more promising for Yifan. And I mean, Chiyu, Yifan, honestly, if I'm her, I'm glad to get this experience in the bullet because that's probably her biggest weakness. And when she plays either Lucknow or Kostenyuk in the final, neither of those players are going to be forgiving. So she needs to be fast and she needs to be accurate, and getting more bullet games in will obviously help that.
Yeah, for sure. We're just waiting for Black to slowly convert this end game.
Yeah, we see it. The game is over now, and so that means the match is officially in the books. And
This match will be canceled. I mean, sorry, this game will be canceled.
it has been, and we have just a little bit of time before we get to the Lucknow matchup against Kostenyuk. So we're not even taking a break. We're going right through. The 5-minute portion of that will begin, well, very shortly, just not yet. And I'm excited for it. I actually, I just said that I'm still going with Lucknow. I think that this match is as good as it gets between two players who have a long history against one another, as some of the top players from Russia for a number of years now. They play on the same Olympiad team, and that's the thing that's funny is you play on a team a couple times a year, but ultimately chess is an individual game, right? Even during the Olympiad, when you're on the same team as somebody, your result impacts the team, but you can't influence the other boards. So I think that despite being teammates, that doesn't necessarily mean that these players have share their openings or anything like that.
And that's the interesting part because, like, in League or Dota or Valorant, of course your team matters. Like, it's a team game. But in chess, when we have team tournaments, it's just interesting to see the dynamic. Like, what you do on your board really doesn't impact what somebody else does.
Right.
And I just think that, as chess moves forward to what I hope will be online, an online format, which is a lot easier for everybody, it's just, how will this adapt, and how can chess progress in sort of this kind of way, which is interesting for me because at the end of the day, I used to be a really competitive player, but now I'm very, very passionate about streaming, and I'm passionate about bringing this game to like a broader audience and making it more accessible for everybody. Because I feel like in the past, a lot of the tournaments that I've played in, a lot of tournaments that, I don't know, Hess, if you have an opinion, of course, please do go ahead. But it was a little bit more difficult, of course, to play in big tournaments.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm sorry. I was listening to your points. I wasn't not paying attention. I was just trying to hear your final thoughts. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out because some teammates they are collaborative. Right? In the midst of a team tournament, they work together. I don't know players at the highest levels what they do because some of them will share an occasional opening idea, but you have to keep those secrets for when you play that person. So, for instance, on the United States team, if Hikaru is on the same team as Fabiano, they're not like, "Hey, in this opening, have you checked out this line?" Because then they're giving away openings that they may play
Right,
against each other.
right. I mean, they're obviously like if your teammate is in a drawn position, then you realize you got to push for a win. So it's actually not completely correct for me to say that there's no teamwork there, but it's a lot less than in a regular esport that you would see because your game doesn't directly impact somebody else's, and I think that's the point that I was trying to make, rather than saying that what you do doesn't affect at all.
Right. No, I got
Yeah.
you. I just think
Hmm.
it's interesting. I mean, you played on the Canadian team, right? Did
You're
you
right. Yeah.
did you go through openings with your teammates?
Not at all.
Yeah. So, oh,
Yeah.
but haven't we seen this position Lucknow with this like Bishop D3, Bishop B2? I feel like she did this against Ushanina a bunch of times.
I do feel like that too. I do feel like it. I think one day is enough preparation for costing you to prepare something as well. So,
Yeah. I mean, we have H4. So is H5 happening? If you castle Kingside, I'm definitely looking at H5 to just blast the Kingside open and go for a mating attack. But Queen D5 chosen by Kastenyuk. This Bishop on B7 is going to get out once C5 eventually happens. I still prefer White's position though. What about you?
yeah, I mean, I definitely do. I definitely do. I think knight g4 is just a really strong move.
Oh, wait a sec. That
It's a pin. We
yeah.
go for pins. I see simple tactics. I play simple tactics because I am, once again, guys, please don't take my slight exhaustion from this morning as not being passionate about the game. I am pretty passionate about it. It's just Hess and I are both running on about 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice tactic though. That's a good find here because the bishop on g7 is stuck, and there's like queen takes g2, but there's all these like knight g4, queen g2, knight f6, bishop e4, where you hit the queen and protect the rook at the same time, and then there's a
Oh.
problem with the f6 square. Actually, the queen's trapped down there. That may be a worthy sacrifice that black should consider, but that's not exactly what you're aiming for. And she played f4 instead.
I mean, it's a hard tactic to find over the board. I don't think anybody in a blitz game would be like, ah, yes, let me just play the most complicated move in this position.
I mean, that's what I do every single blitz game. It doesn't always work out, but I try it.
That's true. But like, I feel like also one thing about me is if I'm playing like, actually, I never really played serious blitz tournaments, so I can't even say anything about it. But I was gonna suggest that probably in these kind of tournaments where there are cash prizes and there's like, honor on the line, you might play a little bit more solid so that you don't get into those coin flip positions.
Did you say honor on the line? That's like
Yeah.
that's really funny. It sounds like it's like a very serious event where their honor is at stake. You must perform to the
You
best of your
must.
capabilities. Well, speaking of must, you must look out for knight g3 in addition to knight takes f4 because that's a fork, and your rook and your queen would be under attack. This is a weird position. So queen f2 does both. And what's happening? I'm still waiting for some kind of play on this long diagonal. The bishops are staring each other down through the knight on e5, so I'm waiting for some kind of tactical shot.
Oh, f6. Okay, well now you gotta move your knight, and if you go to f3, there will be knight takes f4, so your only move is knight to g4. Unless you want to play knight takes g6 and just go all in, but once again, I'm not Katarina. I'm just here on the side, just suggesting moves.
And yeah, knight
I feel
g4.
like yeah.
No, you're right. It looks like the move.
Hmm. Yeah, knight g4, knight e3. Looks a lot more play, and we go. Do you think we'll see short castling?
For white, I guess
Yeah.
maybe because the pawn f4 is under attack,
Right.
and it's. I can't castle queenside because there also will be b takes a4 at some moments. I think castling kingside is the safest. It just is funny because you played f4 and h4 over there. Maybe you'll play g4 and trap this knight soon though.
Yeah. The current time control is 5+1, so they do have a bit of time to think. We just came out of bullet, so this
Oh,
is the 5+1 portion.
oops, I didn't change it. That's on me. Sorry, everybody. That's
Yeah.
when you're multitasking and trying to commentate on chess and do the production, and you didn't get a break between the matches. That's on me, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Huge shout out to Robert Hess, by the way, for being such an amazing co-commentator and, of course, for hosting the entire thing today. Cannot be him. I don't understand how he's doing it.
Yeah, you can't be me because there's only room for one of me, and
Yes.
so yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So like this is the 5+1 portion, and you know, as the games are longer, there is more accuracy, and it's something very different from the 1+1 we just looked at. However, tactics are still abound, and as the time goes down, Katarina is currently down a whole minute compared to Kostanuk, which is dangerous because Kostanuk is really, really good at speed chess. Katarina is also, they're both really good at speed chess, but this is the point where that 1 minute is going to matter. And is bishop takes e4 not just a free pawn, or am I like tripping? Because in knight g3, then you got bishop d3, and it looks like good compensation.
So not a free pawn. You answered your own question, but it does look pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And sorry, let me. What's going on here? Trying to fix everything behind the scenes. You know, it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. Hess is sorting everything out. But you know, what I suggested did come true. This is a very nice position for white because first of all, you got the pair of bishops. You got a bishop and a pawn for the exchange, and then you have the pair of bishops, and at the same time, you're still attacking black's g pawn. So black has a really difficult time protecting his position. I'm personally not a huge fan of positional exchange sacrifices just because I feel so insecure about them. Like I'm never like, I know this is a good exchange sacrifice, but this is one of the times when I would actually take it because you got a whole pawn for it. Which means that the material imbalance is not huge. And then at the same time, you're also going to get the g pawn for it because there's no way that black wants to play g takes f5 and let your knight get to f5.
Yeah, g takes f5, that looks awful with the knight coming into f5. So you're just inviting more of white's pieces into the attack, and black's king, it's not just about the king, or the king may not get checkmated, but look at the bishops. Look at this one on b7, look at this one on g7. White's pieces are like aiming just directly into the attack, and black's pieces they're pawns. Those bishops are pawns. Okay, so now the point is if you take twice on g6 and then get with the bishop there, the d2 pawn hangs. So that's what black is hoping for here. So white probably won't take twice on g6. You can, and then continue your attack that way. But maybe there's like an initial move you can play that is useful. But now that you've taken once and black can play f5, I think you have to. And she does.
Yeah.
Oh, queen h5, queen h7 looks pretty good.
Queen f3 is really interesting because what happens on like c5?
Oh gosh, she found it. So your point is that you take on b7, you lose this knight on e3 with check to boot. So she plays queen to g3. That looks pretty good. Next move is knight f5. Ooh, this is like, I feel like black has some play here, but not enough.
Right. Right. I mean, I don't actually know because like it just feels like black's king is so empty and void of protection because you can push h5, h6 at any given time. But then again, I don't know what's going on here. It feels like white's king is also close to being checkmated if you ever lose your knight, but it's looking good here, I think, for white.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, and you're also now up time here, so that's a good sign for you. Black needs to find some kind of defensive play. Rook d7, I like that it's preemptively defending the bishop on g7, and if knight f5, then at least there's not an immediate attack on g7 because you've already protected it. So knight f5 played. Black can try maybe bishop e4. I just need to be tricky here. I know that white's attack is very dangerous, so a move like bishop e4, it kind of like challenge you. You can't really take on g7 because I'll take with my rook on g7 and pin everything. So it's getting more complex tactically, and that should help black's chances to survive, and she just played bishop e4.
Yeah. You think we're gonna see bishop c1?
Bishop c1. Nice, trying to reroute that bishop into the king set over here.
Yeah, because I was looking at knight takes g7 ideas, but obviously rook takes g7 and you just get your bishop pinned. Okay, queen g4 is a interesting move. You're just trying to get some pressure off of that, and but like I just want to get my last piece into the attack. And once again, this is something that I can only say when I'm doing commentary, which is really interesting because when I play a game, I just play the worst moves on the position. Like it's just like it's a total stark difference between when I do commentary and when I like do play my games, because like I said, we've said this many times, if I have 40 seconds on the clock right now, I would probably be pushing like h5 or something. Like I don't know, man. Like I don't know. I would be pushing h5, which probably isn't a very good move. But that's kind of like the whole point of, playing chess is really difficult all over the board, especially with so little time.
It's extremely difficult, and I always say this. I'm the first one to say that when I commentate, I just can throw out moves, and if they're not good, I can just take them back. You heard me say it. I'm not embarrassed by it. To be a commentator, you have to be willing to be wrong. And as a chess player, you can't be wrong, because if you're wrong, your opponent's going to punish you and win the game. So here, it looks like a big attack for white, but rook e8 played, like, I want to play queen to, not g7, but queen to g6, so let me draw the arrow correctly, and try to get my queen into h7, but if I move my queen all the way up to g6, and I get a check on h7, is that the end of the world, or can...
I was going to suggest bishop d3, because you can play bishop takes f6, since you can't play bishop takes f6 immediately because of queen d6, but that never happened, so forget it. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're all good here. Actually, that looked pretty nice. Rook e4, trying to sacrifice pieces to get a counterattack.
Oh, wait a minute.
It's not going to work, though. It shouldn't work. Oh, well, with the queen trade, now your chances definitely have improved, because you're not getting checkmated, you're only down one pawn.
This endgame is potentially drawable, but we saw a lot of endgames yesterday between Katarina and Ushanina that Katarina, managed to convert, but this is looking like a draw now.
I'm just looking at this h-pawn, the bishop, the h8 square, they all match. It is same colored bishops, so it's not like black has to give up that piece at some point, but that's what I'm looking for, is if sometimes you want to see, can I bail out in a certain way? Here, well, now the pawn's pushed very far. I think you're probably just going to end up losing it on h6. It's gone a little too far. c3 is capturable here. And now it's just even. b4 is going to take, and you're going to make a draw. Wow. What a first game that was.
Well, the draw offer is in, and, you should just play king takes h6 to get the draw. That'd be even cooler.
That was also a long game. That was nearly 12 minutes long. And so we probably only get 3 games in this time control if they continue to be some competitive. Oh, I've played this before. So this is a dubious line. So I know that Katerina Lochno is playing this, and I played it myself. That doesn't mean that you should play it. So by putting your knight on a5, you're trying to get the 2 bishops. However, you've given up control over the center by moving your piece once and then a second time out to the side of the board, whereas as you see here, white is fully developed, castled, and is certainly happy about this. So queen takes d4 is possible, knight takes d4 also plenty good here. Sometimes you're worried about c5, c4, trapping your bishop on b3, but if you play c5, white can put this bishop on d5 and attack the rook. So that's why that kind of shot doesn't pan out for black there.
I mean, I really like all of these, forehead cams. And it's like at sports events, you have the what's it called, the kiss cam, the whatever dance cam, those things. Yeah. In chess, we have the forehead cam.
You do, because when you're on camera, right, you're like, forget about it, because you are so into the game that you're playing, and you often focus. Chess players, they put their hands on their heads and they start concentrating like that. And you can see Kostanek right now. She's got her hands really. She's concentrated on the game. That being on camera is not something that you're even considering, and so she's moved down.
For sure. I mean, like, especially because nobody's like using professional like video like DSLRs for this, so the webcam is literally like, at best it would be level to your face, but then when you're like tilted in, the webcam is like actually just over here. So
yeah, Kostanek's setup is great though, because she's a streamer and she also does a lot of commentary. However, it's different when you're streaming. Like, I'm looking at the camera, but if I'm playing, I'm gonna look at the camera and then I'm just gonna be like looking down and just focusing on the board. Yeah. And then eventually, I forgot, I'm here. Oh, but the chess move. Oh, can I sacrifice my knight? Oh, and now I'm back at the camera. So it's definitely hard to focus on things outside of the chessboard when you're in such a competitive game against a strong player like Katerina Lochno. And in this position, g6 was just played by Lochno, which allows her bishop to develop to g7 and get the long diagonal. Now, queen d4 would be the move that comes to my mind first as a way to attack this rook on h8, but then I see that black can play queen to f6 and trade off the queens in this way, and I don't think that favors white.
Yeah. I do think that this position is like she knight f5 just gives black the opportunity to play bishop g7. I'm not sure why it was played.
Yeah, it's sometimes provoking g6 is good for white because it creates weakened dark squares. Here it certainly doesn't. It actually just helps the bishop fianchetto. And once that bishop gets here, you're helping black continue and finish development. So I actually really like black's position. I know I said about the opening, don't do this yourself. I still am sticking to that, even though I like how this position has gone for black in the first 10 moves.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see bishop g7 now. I don't really know what else should be considered here.
Yeah, bishop g7, knight c3.
And what else would you play as black? She's spending time here, and I don't know why. Can you help me out? Any ideas? I don't have any.
I don't know. I don't know what she's thinking about. What is she thinking about? Like, we develop. We control the center, we develop pieces, and we castle.
That sounds like a good plan. And she did play bishop. So she spent 35 seconds on bishop g7. That's, in my opinion, too much time, and bringing her on screen here. So we have Lucknow on camera. She plays bishop g7. Now she spent another, just only 13 seconds on knight f6. I just think that she was well ahead in the clock, and her position was good, and bishop g7 was the natural reply. So it's one of those moves where you can conserve more time, so later in the game when you're starting to get into a severe time trouble, you can avoid those situations where instead of having 8 seconds left, you have 20 seconds, things like that. So I don't know, I thought that was a little strange, but she was probably just working things out and composing herself.
Yes, but there are times to do it, there are times to not do it.
Agreed.
And that was probably, did not need to spend that much time. Once again, Katarina's actually up on time and she plays fast regularly, so I'm not too concerned. And it is 5+1, so she does have definitely enough time. But whatever time you're able to save, it could become an advantage later.
I do like this move b4 by Kostyanyuk. She's stopping Katarina from playing b4 because b4 would have kicked this knight, and the knight is needed here to protect e4. So I really like this move b4. The rook on a1 is staring down at the pawn a6. Well defended for now, but maybe in the future that can be a good thing for white. And for black, the question is, it looks like a great position. However, how can you improve? It's like, I don't want to just sit and have an aesthetically pleasing position. I want to actually have concrete threats. So she plays queen to d7, but Chiyu, what next?
Maybe bishop h6. Whenever you put your bishop whenever you put your queen on d2, you play bishop h6.
That looks totally reasonable from white's perspective, and I'm trying to figure out what black's doing. Maybe h5 to try to go h4 and kick this knight out from g3, so that move makes sense to me. I don't think that black can just dilly-dally. Her position is nice, and she plays queen to c6, maybe applying more pressure on e4, potentially queen c4 to go after the b4 pawn. If I'm white, I think I'm going to play f3 at some moment soon, perhaps bishop h6 first, and she plays bishop h6. But black can't just wait. That's my central point. And I see a question asked, these are the Chess.com ratings. So in parentheses next to the players' names. And what now? So bishop h8.
Once again, it's like a slow game, but a move you will never, ever play is e5. Yeah, so f3 is good.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we don't get checkmated. I've actually gotten checkmated like that when I was playing Blitz on stream, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I did it. So f3 is a smart move.
Yeah, only black has a light score bishop, so you want to limit the scope of your opponent's piece, and f3 certainly does that because now the bishop is staring into a brick wall in the form of this pawn on e4. So now the pawn on b4 is under attack. I personally do not want to give that up. I'm looking at knight d1 to protect the pawn, and then bringing this knight to e3, just kicking your queen off of its perch on c4.
I do like knight d1. Oh, knight e2 is good too. Same idea.
Right, and now instead of kicking the queen with knight e3, she's clearly intending b3, depending on what moves played. So, for example, d5, I'd play b3. The queen has to go back to c6. Then I get knight d4 with a tempo on the queen, and I'm trying to play e5. It feels like white's position is picking up some steam. So d5, b3, actually we're seeing this exact variation. And now queen to b6. There is a pin on this knight, so perhaps e5 is E5 still looks possible here, but there are going to be tactics involving this pin knight. So, played, and knight d7 looks like the move to me, and then f4 will be played by white. So actually, white's gaining very important space here. Chiyu, I like white's position.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I do think that it is a nice position for white. Yes. Actually, now, like, this diagonal is looking a little scary, and I don't know. I actually don't know anymore. I was going to say it's really good for white, but whenever these kind of things happen and your opponent might play 94, I just get a little bit insecure about the diagonal.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think for Kosteniuk, she needs to look at b4, c... Oh, well, no b4 for you because Lucknow played it first. I was thinking that if white had played b4 and put a pawn on c3, you're keeping this knight safe and sound in the d4 square. Whereas now, if black plays knight e4 and we get some trades there, eventually rook a to d8 will apply pressure on this knight in the center. So I still like white's position, and actually a5, trying to open up the queen side, is a smart play by Lucknow, and the clock is about even here. So whose chances do you think are greater in this position?
I think black. It's very unbalanced, but I'm gonna go with black. What about you?
I like king safety, and white's king feels a bit safer, so I'm going to go with white. And it's not just to argue with you, I promise. I just feel like at some point there might be some kind of knight f5 or pawn f5, right? And just trying to push what e6 is on the agenda now to try to just totally blast open the king side. Probably doesn't work, but I'm not my game, not my pieces. I will play e6 and sacrifice this rook on d1.
Yeah, you know what my take is actually for this? I'm gonna say that white would be my blitz choice, but black would be my classical choice.
Okay. I'm with that. I don't like how little time white has now, though.
Definitely.
Like, that's under 30 seconds. And Lucknow she's locked in. I just took a peek over at her camera. She's just like so focused on the game here, and it's only the second game of the match, so to get out to a lead would be great for her. It's a complex position here. Oh, now e5 is falling. This is good for black, for sure. Just bishop takes e5. Steal this pawn in the center. An extra 30 seconds. She takes with the queen. Similar idea. And even material again. But black's pawn structure is better. You have the two bishops. You know what's funny, Chiyu? If you could, would you throw the e4 pawn off the board?
Yes, I would. I would. Honestly, that pawn is a pass pawn, but if you didn't have it there, this diagonal going from a8 to h1 would just be killer.
So how do you get rid of it? I don't see a way yet, but if you move that bishop from e3, I may play e3 myself just to get rid of the pawn and open up the bishop. So bishop f6 was the choice, hitting this knight. The knight goes back to h3. Sad move to play. We talked about knights on the rim plenty of times.
Knights on the rim of Pega.
And black finishes her central control and now puts queen c3. This is now turning into a nice endgame.
The bishops are so nice. And this goes to show why you want the pair of bishops, but really, it's already an endgame, so.
And look, this move, bishop c4, making sure that knight doesn't get to d5 or back to e2. So this knight actually, it looks like it's on a good square. It just has nowhere to go from here. Bishop e5, okay. F6, she's trying to play g5. She does it. And g4, I guess it has to be played now. Or bishop e2 to f3 also looks tempting.
Knight f4. No, knight g4, knight g5. Okay, just trying to go for that pawn.
Ooh, oh, she played a rook! 96 check! 96 check, she forgot about that move. Oh, she didn't see it! Oh my gosh, Kosteniuk didn't see it! And Lucknow has a new lease on this position because her rook is trying to barrel down to c2 and checkmate this white king instead. So rook takes c2 check, bishop takes g3 next. Oh, she goes back. I understand that. She didn't want to allow knight h6 check.
I think this is going to go towards a draw, though. Oh. So I guess it's only fair that, two blunders cancel. Blunder cancels out blunders.
King f7 only move, right? Hitting the knight and then taking this knight.
Yep, clock.
Yep, clock indeed. I think that, 1 second, 2.7 seconds left for black. This is crazy.
This is a draw. Okay. Oh, I said that to her. Oh, Oh, wait, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
You're
Oh
looking
god,
at
I was like, yeah, I just thought there was a discover attack there, and it was a check.
and White is doing a great job of making sure that this E pawn is a pass pawn can't move, so she's going rook E5 and just back and forth. And Kostennik is very experienced in bullet and blitz time controls, so she's not going to lose this game on time.
Yeah, I've been like really feeling really burnt out from playing chess these days. I've been making so many illegal moves when doing puzzles. It's impressive. The good news is that Chess.com has this algorithm where if you make an illegal move, it doesn't count as incorrect.
Oh, that's so
But
sweet.
I just like, yeah, Chess.com is so sweet. Thank you to the developers. Shout out to the developers.
They want you to feel better about yourself. And
Yeah,
your
I make
skills.
so many illegal moves. It's impressive. I don't understand why I do it. Because like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, my king doesn't matter.
I'm just trying to figure out how Black can play for more here. It seems like White has everything under control. The rook E5, bishop F4. That's a great configuration of pieces. You're stopping this pawn from going to E3. And like, where do Black's pieces belong? This king belongs on like G2, but you're not getting there. And
Okay.
it was a draw by repetition. That game lasted another
A really long time.
14 minutes or so.
Yeah, this will be the last game for the 5+1 time format.
Yeah, it will. And oh, what a game that was. There was that one missed opportunity with knight e6 the fork, which would have won Kostennik the game, but Lochno's position was better throughout, so it would have been just a tragic loss for her. And we've seen this line in the Ushanina match, and now we've seen Kostennik also play it with an early b5. To my eyes, that's so risky, yet she continues to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And bishop of b2. So Lochno is a big fan of this variation. I don't know too much about it myself, but I'm learning as I watch her games. Okay, so now there's some pressure on the diagonal. Your knight's protected, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm looking at f4 again, just as a aggressive move. What moves come to your mind here?
Honestly, F4 looks good, but maybe it's something that I'll be a little bit scared about, like just pushing the pawn up. I've had too many bad experiences with this diagonal that now I'm a little bit wary of playing it. What would be really cool if I could get this bishop off of d3, so maybe c4 and then to bishop c2 and then d4.
Oh, that's actually a really clever way of trying to mobilize your pawn structure, because your pawn would like to be on d4, as you're saying, and pawn on c4 would help that out. And she's instead going for rook f3, rook h3, rook lift type of stuff, I imagine. I actually am scared for Black's king. This bishop on b2, it's like an amazingly strong piece that doesn't look like it's doing too much yet, but there will be some knight sacrifices in the air. There will be rook g3 or rook h3 at the right moment. Don't play rook h3 now because the f4 pawn needs some defense. So maybe queen f2, and then bring the queen out to h4 as well. It's just so many different ideas here to go for an attack.
Yeah, you can just play rook g3 here.
And so if knight takes f4, she plays it. So knight takes f4, there must be some kind of crazy just...
There's just so many crazy things. Like if knight takes f4, it's
Bishop-
probably
Bishop h7 maybe?
maybe rook takes g7. It's like the double Greek gift. Bishop takes h7, rook takes g7, but you gotta pick one of them. You can't sacrifice both. So it's gonna be either one or the other.
Do you know who you're talking to? I can sacrifice whatever I want, whenever I want. I control this board. So I can play after knight f4. I can play bishop h7, and I can play rook g7 if I want. I wasn't going to do that. I was going to play queen e4 check and just win the knight.
Okay, I would go with rook takes g7. Which one would you pick? Rook takes g7 or bishop takes h7?
Bishop takes h7.
Okay, so we'll see. We'll see. I like rook takes g7.
Okay, well, I don't think she's going to play knight takes f4, so...
Yeah, I do think. Okay, and we see f5.
And that's just cutting the bishop off, making sure that bishop takes h7 will never be available. And, well, it's a strategically risky move because the pawn e6 is now a backward pawn. And I still like some kind of knight discovery. But the problem is, in order to make this attack on g7 work, let's say knight takes c6, you're giving up too much material. So if I take on c6, you take on g7, we do a quick count at the end of this. Black has two minor pieces and a rook for a queen and a couple pawns. That's very good for black. So you don't want to go all in on these sacrifices just because you're winning the queen.
Mm-hmm.
And rook f1 was the choice instead, protecting the pawn on f4. I still like white's position. It just feels like you have more space, more control, and black isn't in time to play c5 yet to open up this bishop on the long diagonal. So what moves does black have here?
Well, it looks like the attack is really strong, but Black always can just play the bishop back to f8, like what you just did, and just protect g7. So I don't really know where the attack's going to go from now.
I don't know either, but queen h5 looks like a step in the right direction. Even if I'm not threatening anything directly, she played it. I feel like rook h3 at some moment is going to be scary. Knight f6 was the choice. Now queen back to h4, which threatens the knight on f6 directly because the pawn on g7 is pinned. And now there's also these sacrifices. Right? Knight takes c6 is a threat to win this knight on f6 as the g7 pawn is pinned. It's pretty scary to me. Actually, I don't even know what black does now. So
Yeah, well, now if queen e7, there'll be knight takes c6, knight takes c6,
and then bishop
knight
takes
takes
f6.
c6, yeah, and then bishop takes f6. This is looking good.
It's a free pawn. And Lucknow looks like she is pressing forward. It's not that clear. So even though white will win a pawn there, the pawn on g7 actually will become defended. And when the attack is permanently stopped, white's pieces are actually kind of out of sorts. They're in awkward places. This bishop on d3 in particular is in a weird spot because it can't move the d2 pawn behind it. So white goes ahead, Lucknow steals a pawn. I just think that all things considered, this is probably the best that Kosteniuk could have asked for. And what now? Rook a7 comes to mind to defend the g7 pawn some more. She just takes on a4. I don't know if I believe you can take it again, but perhaps you can get away with it. I don't trust it though. Like bishop takes a4. It feels like you're playing with fire. So bishop a4, I would play rook h3 and try to go for this h7 pawn.
Oh, this is like a nice position for white, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you. Yeah, the rook a7 is a good move. Very, very good move. You need to come to the defense of your king. It's more important than a measly pawn out on the queen side. White is up a pawn. That's the good news for Lucknow. The bad news is she's probably like kind of racking her brain, really frustrated. Like, where is my attack? I need to go for a checkmate. I have a bishop on f6. I have a rook on g3, a queen on h4. Everything looks like it's in prime location for the attack. But then it's like, okay, good for you. Bishop takes a4 now probably is a move that you can get away with.
Yeah.
She does it. And now you can play g6. That's the important part of she plays h6. I didn't like that. No, that looks too risky to me. The h6 pawn now is under attack. I thought she should have played g6 and then bishop g7. That's the whole point of having the rook on a7, is it comes to the defense. Now your pawn's hanging on h6, and you can't go king h8, because king h8 is met by queen takes h6. That pawn is pinned. And if you play king h7, I just go queen h5, hitting your rook, threatening queen g6 check, and I'm going to win your h6 pawn by force.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this position is looking absolutely spectacular for white. This is everything you want in a blitz game, and Kosteniuk is also running a little bit low on time. It's just very hard to defend once again when you're under attack.
So bishop b5. Okay, trying to trade off pieces. That's not a bad decision. You can avoid the trade with c4 if you'd like, or you can just go queen takes h6 and steal that very important pawn in front of the black king. I think I would actually play c4. I want more pieces in the attack.
And that's what's happened.
That's a really high-class move by Lucknow.
Yes.
I really approve of it. I think that she's in excellent form in this game. And she should be able to secure the point. I don't want to jinx her, though.
And that's why, you're and we've talked about commentator's curse before, too, where you say something and then all of a sudden next move, uh-oh, not like this. But I do think that Katarina is very, very determined, and we had her on the interview right after the games yesterday. So we know she's determined. Kosteniuk is also determined, but I feel like Lucknow just has something in her for this tournament very specifically, where she's like, I just want to win.
And winning is what she's trying to accomplish and what she's looking like she's well on her way to doing here. There is a very funny tactic. Let's say white makes this some random move like pawn, I don't know, let's say pawn h3, there's bishop takes g2 check, because if you take back on g2, I sacrifice my queen for your rook and then win your queen at the end. You needed the rook on the g file to pin the pawn. So bishop takes g2 check is a threat in this position, and one that's extremely easy to overlook because you are defending that pawn. It's more about removing this rook on g3. Now the queen dropped back. There's no longer this tactic. The queen is no longer hanging on h6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now we will see something like... Actually, what will we see? This is a good question. Oh, bishop e2 with the idea of maybe going bishop f3?
I think bishop h5, bishop g6
Oh, right, bishop h5. Oh, wow. We're just going to go bishop g6 and go for checkmate.
That's why the pawn was important on the h-file. It helped you shield your king. Without it, here comes bishop g6, queen h7. It's a direct checkmate. There's nothing that Kostennik can do to... don't trade queens. Drop your queen back. Oh gosh,
bishop f6. Wow.
That's so painful. That's even better.
Wow, Katarina's just attacking so well. Like every single move, but that's part of like playing blitz. Like I've said this a million times. You guys will get tired of hearing this, but attacking is so much better than defending in blitz, because it's just like every move flows. You just attack your opponent somewhere. You go hit the queen, you go hit the king, you try to checkmate them, try to take the rook.
And well, attacking paid off for Lucknow, and the time is up for the 5+1 minute portion of things. This is a 2-1 lead for Katerina Lucknow in this all-Russia matchup. Kostennik will have plenty of time to bounce back, and you'll have plenty of time to stretch your legs, maybe do something else besides watch chess for a little bit, because when we come back, I expect you to be fully attentive to our analysis. Everybody, we'll be back in a few for more FIDE Chess.com Women's Speed Chess Championship coverage. And we return here ready for the 3+1 time control. It's going to be an exciting match. We have a 1-game lead for Katerina Lochno. Hey, who'd you pick before this match again? What was your prediction for it?
I think it was Katerina Lano.
Oh, you copycat. That was my pick. Oh, such a copycat you are. I don't even know what to do with you. And we are about to have liftoff for 3 minutes plus 1 second increment. They will play 30 minutes in that time control. You generally get the most games there because 30 minutes of 3+1 instead of 30 minutes of 5+1. Start with less time, get more games, makes mathematical sense. And so, who do you think this time control favors? Does the quicker time control? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, you go ahead first.
No, I was just gonna wonder if the quicker time control favored Kosteniuk, who has extensive practice, or if it favors Lochno, especially because she has a lead on the scoreboard.
I think it favors Katerina because she has a lead on scoreboard. Also, I've seen this entire tournament, she's just playing so well. She's being so on point with every single one of her games, and it's not a takeaway from the fact that Kosteniuk has lots of experience and she's obviously a very strong player, but Katerina does seem to be doing better just during this time period.
That's fair. And Lochno is out to a 2-1 lead thus far, and she's playing this opening again. I've talked about this. I'm like, probably wouldn't advise it to the people watching. You've moved the same piece twice in the opening. You haven't controlled the center, and you actually are giving up control of the center. I think that Kosteniuk has looked at this. She will not play knight takes d4 and then knight to f5 like she did in the other game, because once black played g6, it was easy development for her. And c4, look at that move. That's a common move when there's a king still stuck on e8. If you take with the pawn on c4, in comes bishop a4 check, and your king's in big trouble there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, once again, I love the Spanish. I like it for both sides. So I'm just happy to be seeing my opening be represented at this top level event. But I don't know about this. This looks like it's going to be good for white.
It certainly does, because that king is not very happy stationed on e8. And we actually saw a position like this where Yifan, she had the white pieces against Sarah earlier today. And even though black had the bishop pair, once you take on c4 and get that pawn back, you have this pawn on c7 that will be a problem. So we have seen bishop takes c4, and now white has choices. Queen a4 check to pick up the pawn. She played rook to e1 first, maybe trying to go e5 and opening up the position even more. The king is not happy in the center.
Yeah, I mean, now, we'll play something like knight a3, just going for that c-pawn. Black can't realistically take on e4, so you're good for a little bit. Or knight d2, honestly, probably make more sense.
And knight a3, knight d2, I think both have the same
committal.
point. Yeah, queen a4 check, that's a big decision. Queen d7, queen takes c4. I still like white's position. I think I'm going to say that for the next bunch of moves until black proves that she can finish her development and save and make her pawns all feel comfortable. Because now I'm looking at knight f5. You can get rid of black's bishop pair if you want. I'm looking at knight c3. I don't know. I feel like the trajectory of this game is just easy for white and not so easy for black.
Definitely. I am very much liking white's position. Being having just more activity is really nice, especially in blitz. And we're always going to see something like knight f5, queen to g3, just go for those kind of like checkmate ideas. Really, really strong in blitz games.
And this move queen to d3, some people are like, wait, why did she move her queen back? You're talking about knight f5. She didn't want d5 to happen and to be forced to capture. So if d5 is played, white will push through to e5. And so that's why the queen dropped back to d3 first. I like the response rook e8. The bishop will come to f8. That way, if knight f5, you don't get to take that bishop, and the g7 pawn becomes protected. So I think that Lochno is responding excellently, and Kosteniuk down 30 seconds here. That's a big time deficit.
Definitely. I mean, this is the 3+1, so I have been seeing Katerina play really, really fast. In fact, yesterday, I think a lot of her matches, she was just like, she had extra time somehow, which I don't understand how that happens. But today, Kosteniuk will have to do something about her time if she wants to beat Katerina.
She will, and she's now down 40 seconds here. The d5 move is quite frustrating to deal with because knight f5 is played. The bishop should just retreat to f8, and this pawn e4 is actually in harm's way.
Yeah, and with if bishop to f8, then white will have to develop her bishop. Bishop f4 maybe, but once again, that's an interesting capture. I mean, I think it's good. I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. So trading the queens. So wait, isn't white up a pawn now? It's opposite color bishops, so it's not the total end of the world here for Kostyanyuk, but it's an extra pawn, and so black can just play risk-free. And what now, though? How do we corner? Rook a to e8, so I can play. I can't play knight d3. That's, I think, a move that many in the chat like, wait, that's a fork. But if you'd played that before putting the rook on e8, then this rook would have taken, and the rook on e7 would have fallen. That's why rook e8 first. Ooh, nice move. Bishop takes c7. It's the exact thing we were just talking about. If you take on c7, rook takes d3, the rook on e8 is left unguarded. Really nice tactic there.
Wow, 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 wow. I mean, there's still knight takes b2 here, I think.
That's a good move. Knight takes b2 is a good move. I think
it's literally like you do it, and then your opponent is like Uno reverse.
That's a really good way of framing it. Like you get the card back to you. And
yeah.
Wait, bishop. Oh, I thought there's a back rank checkmate. I forgot the pawn's on h3. I was like, wait, bishop takes d5. That's a back rank mate. I do think that white's chances of holding this game have improved a lot because we talk about this, I think, every day now. There's a 4-on-3 advantage for black on the king side. So if the queen side pawns get traded in a pair of rooks, that's theoretically drawn territory. Rook in 3 versus rook on 4 like this on the same side. Look at that move, rook e5. Please take me on e5. I will checkmate you happily on the back rank. The ice skater.
Yes, the ice skater. The very, very famous ice skater. Well, king f8 is the way to go here. You don't want to move your rook away because then you'll take on e4. So definitely king f8.
King f8 looks good. And Kostyanyuk's suddenly up a lot of time. So the situation on the clock has reversed. And Kostyanyuk well ahead on the clock. She's down upon the board. Excuse me. For Lucknow, she can make a draw whenever she wants. So she shouldn't be in any danger here. It's just interesting to note how the time goes from a surplus to a deficit.
Wow. And we have a draw offer which is accepted, which I'm kind of surprised by because usually you would see Kostyanyuk maybe push for a win, especially being up the pawn. I mean, not even being up a pawn, having that pass pawn.
Yeah.
But, you know, and also being up so much time. I'm just kind of surprised by that draw accept.
I think that was a sign of mutual respect where, like, oh, you know, you're a very strong player. You're going to make a draw probably 98 times out of 100. So I'm not going to challenge you in this moment. But I think it's a good lesson for the audience because they're like, wait, why was that a draw? Wasn't that a position where it wasn't completely even? There was still some play left. So I actually am in favor generally of playing it out. I just understand the decision. And Lucknow can play this. So this is interesting because I've seen Kostyanyuk play this from the white side, if I'm not mistaken. I coached the U.S. women's national team, and I think that Arena Crush was black against Alexandra Kostyanyuk in this position, or a similar position, and Kostyanyuk with the white pieces played this move a4 and got a great one. And here, Kostyanyuk's on the black side of things, and then Fianchetto Knight on b7, Shiyu, that leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, the Fianchetto Knight, the infamous Fianchetto Knight, it has a lot of squares to go to, by the way. definitely better than the bishop on b7.
Yeah, the knight looks good there. It protects a5, it protects d6. It can't move, but that's, you know, no one's judging it for that. And white should certainly she does castle. She can go rook to a1. The pawn on a5 is pinned. This knight can come to c6. She didn't do that right away because queen c7 would have hit both knights along the c file. And now what to do after bishop d7?
Knight b5.
Which one?
C to b5.
Looks pretty decent. Can't complain about that. Bishop b5 also looks fine.
You know what's a really funny move here?
What?
Bishop a6.
Oh, because you're just giving up the rook for the bishop because the light square is in the king, and the knight's still trapped over there. Oof.
That knight is just so bad. I don't want to insult the... Yeah, I don't want to shame the knight or anything like that, but knight's not doing too hot. Okay, b5 is a really solid move. There's no reason to play something like bishop a6. It's just outrageous.
That was a crazy move. b5 is saying, well, let me protect my rook. Let me thrust my pawn forward more advanced. I can play knight c6 still at some moment. And knight c6 doubles the pawn, but he gets it more advanced, and that's going to be a really annoying piece
Hmm.
if it does get to c6. So take with the pawn, queen. She takes the queen. Couldn't decide, so she made at least a quick move there. And this is the type of position, Chiyu, where white looks better for now, but black has the bishop pair, and if the position opens up, I could see this game turning in black's favor.
Yeah, I definitely can too. I mean, this is a very, very easy position to go wrong in. Like, you think your position is so good, and then all of a sudden you can't find a way to push it, and then it goes downhill from there. And this is the moment when it starts going down. It might start going downhill if
Yeah,
black plays something like knight g4 and you get rid of that bishop, and then you have the pair of bishops.
that's true. And like the thing is, if you don't give up the bishop on e3, maybe this knight will get to e5, and especially now with the queen on c7 here. So if you played b6, that pawn may have ventured a little bit too far, and it's not that easy to defend there. So I actually like the way this game has gone for black, since I didn't really like black's position earlier. I still think white is better, except it's harder now to prove that advantage.
Hmm.
So let's see. What should black do? I think rook f to c8. That's the first move that comes to my mind, putting pressure on c4. Black
Yeah.
can consider playing d5 at some moment. I guess now is not that moment, though.
Well, I mean, right now, basically what we're going to see is white trying to push the pawn on b6. We're going to see black try to react with pressure on c4. I would have really loved for black to play knight g4. It not only would have exchanged the bishop off, it would have helped the bishop, the dark squared bishop get to f6, which would have been really important because right now, black's bishops aren't doing anything.
I think they're doing a lot here. They're occupying the e8 and e7 squares. They are protecting the f7 pawn and the f6 knight. So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. That the knight on f6 is cramping the bishop on e7. So when you have less space, you do want to make trades quite regularly. And knight d7 was played. That's why bishop e8 was played first, because then it frees up the d7 square for the knight. Now this bishop can get to f6, perhaps. The knight can go to e5. I'm looking for d5, especially now that the b5 pawn is no longer defended. She bishop
Right.
queen c7.
Yeah, I mean, you want to play bishop f6, but you can't play it when your pawn on d6 is unprotected.
Right, right. That pawn
So
needed the defense. Yeah, if you give up the d6 pawn, then the c pawn and the b pawn start rolling, is a problem. So what's happening here? The knight on
this
a4
is
is under
very
attack.
scary. Ooh.
Oh, because b7. She gave up the knight on a4 because of
Ooh.
b7. Nice move.
Yeah. And there is still 18 minutes left in the 3+1 time control, so we will see quite a few games played in this as compared to the 5+1 time control where they only had 3 games played. So this will be probably the biggest portion of their, of their match, because as it goes into 1+1, I do think Katarina has the advantage there. So this is the perfect chance for. I mean, sorry, going to 1+1, I think Alexandra Kostanuk actually has pretty good chances there. So in the 3+1, we're going to see Katarina try to push these games for the win.
And Katarina has been impressive thus far. She should be able to convert this relatively smoothly because she's up in exchange and a pawn. Her king is perfectly safe for now. The one thing you don't want to do as white is just get complacent. Like, oh, I should be winning no matter. Well, now with the queens off the board, you can get a bit more complacent. What I was going to say is you don't want to just like say, I can do anything I want and win this game.
Right.
Especially when the queens were on the board, there were opportunities for black to do something a little crazy. Here, there's nothing you can do. This bishop on d6, pawn on c5 is looking excellent.
Yeah, I mean, this position is just completely winning for white, having that passed pawn and also being up the exchange. This will be Katarina's game, and we will see a 2-point lead over Kostanuk very, very soon, which is quite, I don't want to say it's shocking. I always I think Kostanuk has really good chances to come back, especially in the next game as white, but Katarina has just been playing so well.
Yeah, she certainly has. She's also up on time in this game. It's not exactly evident immediately how white breaks through because this configuration of knight d7, bishop c6, rook c8, it's like, wait, where's white going to push forward here? And that's why she played h4, is now she has a new avenue of attack with rook takes h4, hitting the h5 pawn. Rook c7 also will kick this bishop out from c6. So she opened up the second flank, and it's a principle of two weaknesses on full display.
Yeah. I mean, after e takes f5, king takes f5, rook takes h4, I think you can play something like, I don't know. I mean, it's not like black has a lot of moves he can play. So I just feel like it's going to be a White's game no matter what he does. It's just a matter of not blundering under time pressure, not. I didn't see anything.
Yeah,
Oh, rook
e4.
f4.
Oh, rook f4 is
Ooh.
going to be nice. That was a good move there. Actually, would have checked and then probably pinned and won the knight there.
But rook f4 still is really, really good. Just as long as you don't blunder
I
pieces, which
I
is,
think
oh, this is like becoming worrisome.
Yeah,
Slightly.
there was knight d5 check there. She made it one move too late. Knight d5 check would have forked the king and the rook. And I was about to say that black's chances have certainly improved here, especially with the lead on the clock. But it's getting more complicated. It's not like white's king is that safe either. So I would say that black's chance of holding have gone up in a huge way. Where's the king going?
I mean, definitely, like, this is just, there'll be a lot of checks. And you got to be careful about where you put your king, because you don't want to put it, oh. I mean, I know perfectly well. Oh, the king is so close to
She
being
made it with
checkmated.
1.5 seconds left. Rook h8 is checkmate, so she made that move barely in time, and she has checkmate next to what king h7 was played. Rook
Whoa.
f5 going for checkmate. If king h6, there's bishop f8, and then rook h5. So she made 1.7 seconds left. She's barely getting these moves off. And she resigned. Don't resign. Play
Wait.
rook b1 check. Okay, I'm going back to that game for a quick second there. Lucknow can breathe a sigh of relief.
I think Alexandra Kosniuk is giving up just slightly too easily. Like, I understand she has so much respect for her opponent, which I feel like is amazing. Obviously, both of these women players are absolutely phenomenal. Both are very strong. They've won world championships. But when it comes down to bullet, you take no prisoners.
I agree.
You go for it. Because there's so much chance in bullet. A win is still a win, no matter how you get it.
I'm totally with you there. I would have played rook b1 check, and if my opponent was quick with the mouse and took my rook, then I would resign. And that's the thing. It's really weird in this format because most of these players, either they don't play much chess online, or
Yes.
they're so used to the confines of these classical tournaments that are extremely professional and you treat everybody with respect, which you should. I don't think it's disrespectful, though, to try to flag your opponent in a speed chess game.
Right.
So-
Because I think at the end of the day, clock is part of chess for a reason. If it wasn't, we would be going back 40 years and playing that, 6-day game where they had adjournments and they had like 2 hours after however many moves and another 2 hours. So I think giving this element of speed is what makes a lot of these games interesting. And as a classical player, as as somebody who never really played blitz or bullet, especially not bullet, I've come to the realization that it's part of it. It's really integral to playing speed chess. Like, you have to treat it as part of the game too. It's no longer just about winning on the position. And yeah.
I was going to say, it is a hard psychological adjustment because these players have played each other so many times, and when they play each other, it's in these like very important tournaments over the board with maybe dignitaries present, whatever it is. So you kind of treat your opponent with the utmost respect, and I actually really appreciate that about the players. But you have to make that shift when you're playing in an event like this, where if your opponent has 1 second left, I don't care if you blunder your queen. You put the queen next to the king, give it a check so that it can't pre-move, whatever checkmating idea they may have had before that. So you just throw all of the, protocols out the window and you just go for the flag.
Yeah, exactly. You go for the flag.
And what's going on here? Isn't white just up a pawn? So I feel like Kosteniuk has rebounded quite well from that defeat. Like, extra pawn, no risk here. Great position.
Yeah, I think this is looking pretty solid for white.
So she takes an f6 and plays b4. Some people would say, hey, 2 bishops. That's always good, right? The bishops are good. They're staring towards the center and at white's king. But you can actually pile up more pressure. I can play king f1, then pawn f3 if need be. And at some point I can play knight c5 to force you to exchange one of your bishops. So white is clearly better here with no risk whatsoever in the position.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, we're here, just trying to hold the position together as black. And you'll realize that having pair bishops is great, but at the end of the day, I think having that extra material and also black has the worst pawn structure, that's what's going to really impact your position. And it's not like, white will exchange off the rooks and go into a pure 2 bishops versus 2 knights endgame, which would really suck for white. There's still 2 rooks on the board.
Right.
So there's a lot of things to consider here. And Hess is, of course, the endgame expert. So, we're in his element now.
We're not. You were going to ask the question, and I was about to answer. We're not really in a pure endgame just yet. So
that's what I thought you were going to say, and I wanted
to. I heard it. I kind of sensed that it was coming. We've been doing commentary now for several days together. I knew what you were about to say. And the reason why I do say it's not like a pure endgame is because there actually are attacking chances for both sides. The bishop on d4 is particularly excellent. It's covering all the dark squares. There could be an attack against this king on f1. And one of these knights, like this knight on d3, can go to f4 to h5 eventually and put pressure on these double pawns and threaten some back rank checkmate ideas. So knight takes b4. One of these knights is heading into d5. You can't really stop it. So knight c to d5 feels really strong now.
Okay, but what would you define an endgame then?
I don't believe in labels, Chiyu, so knight e7 though looks really good.
Okay, I accept that as an answer. So I will stop introducing the opening as an opening to people. I'll just say this is chess. Just play it.
Well played. I appreciate you combating my comments with a very clever response there. And look at this king on g6. If I can get a rook to h6 to checkmate.
Yeah. Well, I think g takes h5, king takes h5. The king is really misplaced on h5, but it's literally if you have one piece you can move, it would be checkmate. But of course, rook g1 is only part of the story. Okay, knight e3 looks really good.
So
and then rook g1, yeah. And this king can't leave the h.
Yeah, you want to play rook b3 jumps over all the pieces to h3 checkmate.
Yes, exactly.
So I can do that. You can everyone who's watching can see the rook hovering over h3, but don't do it now because the bishop would take it. But however, you do want to get that rook all the way over there. Maybe c4 to give a pawn back. You're up a pawn, so give the pawn to open the b file, particularly the b6 square to hit the f6 pawn, things like that. I feel like that's a really good decision to change the dynamics from a pawn up into one where white has the initiative and is really going for more.
Jokes aside, I think c4 was actually a really good move back then. He really should have gone for a rook to h3. Like literally take all the pieces out and just see how black would have responded.
And so rook d2, so what's she going for? The take on h2 or bishop e2 check kind of stuff? I don't really believe
she's just going for checkmate.
Yeah, why not? This king's on h5, there's no moves.
Rook g8 and then rook h8.
Oh my god, just rook h8, rook h6 is checkmate. It's not just rook. It's mate too.
Wait, that's mate too.
Check. She has to find it. She's probably so focused on bringing her other rook into the game, but no.
She does it.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
She's way too strong to have missed that checkmate.
That was really, really good, and she wasn't low on time, which is probably the most important part.
And wait, I actually thought Lucknow was black, and I thought we were gonna get this b5 knight a5 thing again, and then I saw that Kastanyuk is black.
So we're gonna get the other one.
We're gonna get the more thematic, the one that makes Chiyu happy instead of all this craziness. I don't think knight a5 is coming now. d6. This is still mainline theory.
I do like both, just because they're both Spanishes. If it's Spanish, it makes me happy, and I'm really happy here because we're getting literally a match in just the Spanish. It's an opening I can commentate on because I know it. Totally
fair. And this decision where black put b4 and white played a5, we actually had a game like this the other day, and we talked about how the pawn on b4 is potentially overextended, and this bishop can go from b3 to a4 at some moment to put pressure on this knight on c6. So I tend to like these positions from white side, though black has a lot of play in these lines.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm like I like this opening honestly from both sides. I can't even like have a preference because if you plot me in, I'm just like yes.
You're like, put me in, coach. Get me in here.
Yeah, exactly. But I think at the end of the day, if you get in these positions where it's d3 and you don't get to push d5 as black, white is very slightly better. So black's idea is always to push d5. White's idea will always be push d4. It's a very simple opening, in my opinion, which is why it makes it so satisfying to play because you can't really mess up. Except I do mess up anyways, but that's another story.
You can't really mess it up, but I'm so talented that I find a way to do so.
Yeah.
And this last move, a rook to b8, is using the open file. White can try to compete for that file later, but bishop c2, this is Chiyu's favorite square, I've noticed, for her bishop. It makes it feel like a true Spanish. And
Mhm.
how do you feel about this exchange?
I don't like it. So the one thing I'll never do is mess up my pawn structure. I refuse to let it happen. But it's very difficult, of course, in that position where your knight is like pinned to your bishop to actually do something about it. Because if you play bishop a2, it's like it's a bit slow. But at least I guess white is able to play c5 here. But you don't. The thing is, you don't want to play take on d6. So because then that'll leave the c3 pawn too weak. And now the c6 pawn is just like gonna be weak. But also, the a6 pawn will be weak. So it's not like everything, but you're going to lose the c6 pawn at some point.
I would actually have given up that c6 pawn and played knight h4, knight f5 because the knight f5 is very dangerous. Here, after knight c5, the e4 pawn's under attack, the bishop's under attack. You can protect both. It's not like you're incapable of doing so. But I thought that giving up the c6 pawn was the better try. It doesn't feel so important in this position.
Yeah. This is, well, okay, here we have rook b5 and then c4, and there's going to be rook c5, so it's a good time. Oh,
Which, oh,
okay, because it's pinned to a6.
yeah.
You might as well play queen a8 here.
True. Putting more
And then
pressure
play,
on
yeah.
c6, protecting a6 so you can play rook c5 and win this pawn. And actually after queen 8, the other rook can come to b8, so it's a really nice move to control the queen side. The king side is closed down, and there's no attack, at least not for the moment. She ends up giving up the a6 pawn, and which c pawn can she take? Both is probably the answer.
Ooh.
But I'm worried about this a pawn, Chiu. I don't like the look of like queen b7, a6.
I think this is pretty good for white. Yeah, I don't think giving up the a pawn for the c pawn is worth it. I'm not 100% sure what was going through black's mind there, because in no way will capturing a double pawn be worth it to give your opponent a pass pawn.
I guess so. Yeah, knight d7 necessary, and the pawn can't go too far. So the a pawn looks nice. It is advanced. Maybe she should have advanced instead of playing c4, just like pushed it to a6 and maybe even a7, because now it can't go to a6. Otherwise, the rook captures, and black is playing knight c5 right now and gaining some space. So queen d5.
Well, black is actually doing okay now. Like rook a6, the pawn's not going anywhere. And then I go to c5, which is probably the scariest part about all of this. I think you had to go a6 instead of playing c4. I think white's approach was a little bit too slow.
I agree with that. And now black can even take this bishop on d2, play rook to a6, and just try to play all the pieces on the queen side. And there are no weaknesses in black's position, whereas this a5 pawn, at first we thought it was going to be a tremendous strength. It was an asset. It's become a liability that white is tied down to. So Lucknow is also well ahead in the clock here. She has more than double her opponent's time. So that's the good news for white. The bad news is perhaps the a pawn won't last too much longer.
Well, we got knight c5, then bishop e3 maybe.
I can get behind bishop e3. You're just trying to chop off this knight and then go rook to a1 or rook to b1. I like bishop e3. That's a good move. And she's thinking, which actually, this is a great moment for her to think. Sometimes people play too quickly and they have much more time and they just make a rush decision that doesn't work out. She spent some time with rook to b1. She'll trade on a8. And the a5 pawn, it's still defended for now, but e4 is under attack. So rook to e3 is probably better. She played rook to e1. I actually liked keeping the rook on the b file. It seemed more useful than having the rook on a3.
Okay, well, rook a1 has to happen. Oh, I said that and it did not happen. Never mind. You cannot actually take on a5 because there's still rook a1.
That's right.
As a rook ea1.
Exactly. Just pinning this piece, and then knight to b3 comes. You're going to put all your pressure on that square. So bishop d8, knight to b3 still will be played. And Lucknow has a huge advantage in the clock. Knight d8 played to go to c6 or e6 and maybe into d4. However, knight to b3 protects the a5 pawn. I think you can just move your king f1. Just start bringing your king in. And a5 is well defended thanks to all these pieces. I don't think that white's better. I just don't think that white's worse.
Yeah. I don't know if anything's going to come out of this position, honestly. Like, how does white improve?
Well, I said f4, and then she played f6. It's just like a brick wall pawn structure. White has a dark square bishop, but all of black's pawns are on the dark square. Ooh, king g4, king f5, king g6 was the idea, but now king f7 keeping the king out.
I do think this game will go towards a draw. A very, very tiny margin of of error here. Both players are playing really well. And there's still chances for things to go wrong with so little time on the clock. But
yeah, that was a big decision because you could take on d4 with either minor piece, and it's really changed the nature of the game here. So she takes with e pawn, which is a good decision. If you took with c pawn, white would have had c5, trying to push things through. Now king d3. The knight needs to find its way to a great light square, like d5. So can you go knight c1, knight e2, knight f4, knight d5? It's a long journey, but it might be possible.
Sorry, I almost spit out my water here because Chess.com Chris said if she's reading chat, she wouldn't be laughing. And I was like, oh my god.
What is happening in this game? Rook g8, bishop f6, great move to protect the pawn. I actually think Kostyaniuk could take this one. Knight d2. In black's safe and sound here. As long as you don't blunder anything, I don't see how white can break through.
I mean, definitely. Like, what is going on? White is pressing so hard that I think black is just better.
Okay, now g7.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, no, that was not the way to go.
I still feel like black shouldn't be unhappy here.
Hess.
What up?
Is this an endgame?
This is an endgame. And now d3. Oh, there's a problematic endgame. You just go d2.
Oh, wait a minute. How did this happen?
And then push the g-pawn. You distract the rook here. Don't let a7 happen. Rook d3, perfect. If a7, king b7, you stop the pawn, and then you go g3, g2, g1, you sacrifice. And Kostyaniuk has won the game and tied up the match. And wait a sec. Did they get this next game off in time? I'm not sure. No, they did not. That was the final game of the 3+1. We have a tied match, Chiyu.
I can't believe Katarina pushed that position. Sorry, I can't believe Katarina pushed that position that hard. Like, the draw was secured.
Right.
But she was like, I need to win this. And being up match points, I feel like that was not the right way to go.
Yeah, I bring back the move 51 g5, where she sacrificed a pawn, which is thematic. It makes sense. Like, I think we can both understand it, trying to bring the rook into activity. But you're absolutely right. She was up a point in the match. She didn't need to play this riskily, and she did so. Kostyaniuk, to her credit, defended perfectly and then turned that defense into an offense and won the game in fine fashion. So, Chiyu, we're going to take a brief break. We will be back with the bullet portion. It is a tied matchup, so you will not want to miss what is in store for you. We'll be back shortly, everybody.
All right.
And we return here, ready for the bullet portion in what is a tied matchup between Katerina Lucknow and Alexandra Kosteniuk. Chiyu, we have 10 minutes of 1+1 time control. I honestly, beforehand I would have said Lucknow was the favorite, but with 2 straight victories for Kosteniuk, I feel like the momentum's in her favor.
I do agree. I do agree. As we were coming in, I think a large part about playing Blitz and Bullet is momentum, as Hessa said. And Katarina had those first wins, but now Kosteniuk is coming back. And this is the part where you start thinking like, okay, but who has the better mental? Because they seem to be doing pretty well. Both of them are playing really, really well. Roughly even play. But at the end of the day, it will be about momentum now.
And it's going to be about mouse speed. Do not be so kind to your opponent. If their opponent has 1 second left, try to dirty flag them. Try to sacrifice, a rook if you're in a tough position. Sometimes you have to go for things like that in order to win a match of this nature. So I think that both players, their kindness is going to be thrown out the window. Their respect for each other will still be there. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And Bullet is intense, as we all know, as we've all seen, and both of these players are extremely good Bullet players. So we are going to be seeing some really exciting games.
And we are about to have the first one go underway. We probably will get 3, maybe 4 Bullet games, and we are off with the Bullet. So we have another Spanish, surprise, surprise. Chiyu, I feel like you dictated the openings of this match.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this has been exactly my kind of game.
And we see that d4, so white sacrificed the piece, but then get it back by forking the bishop and the knight. Here comes knight 6. This is actually all theory. I've seen Peter Svidler play this line a number of times. Knight e7. It looks very strange the way this opening goes. And knight e4 is the move here, if I'm not mistaken. And the point is that you can reroute this knight to c5 to hit this bishop on b3. It is a very strange opening. Do not try this at home. But Katerina Lucknow, a very experienced, strong player, knows her theory.
Definitely. I mean, this is just like, we've seen this opening so many times from both sides. They both roughly play like similar openings. And I'm like, at this point, I sometimes can't even remember who's playing white or who's playing black. Because before we used to like define people by I would define people by what opening they play. And I identified this that way. Obviously, I can read the player names. But, it's just like their openings are just so similar.
True. And we've had a lot of Spanishes, so it's like Chiyu playing from white and black. And here you see the knights on c5 and f5. They look pretty good here. But if they're kicked back, it could become a bit of an issue if the bishops get on open diagonals. But right now I like black's position. And, okay, so knight to e6 play. Trying to get this f4 pawn. Chiyu, would you take this? Okay, question answered. That's what happens in bullet chess.
Man.
I'm starting to love black's position. Look at this bishop on b7. Queen c6 wins a piece. Lucknow wins a piece.
Wait a minute, not that. Checkmate. This is the checkmate I've talked about before. Oh God. Oh my God. Oh dear. This might change the entire match again. This might swing the entire match, and we have the same opening.
And we saw a resignation. So Kosteniuk has been here before. She knows that she needs to just give up and play the next game. We'll bring Lucknow on stream now. So Lucknow gets the white pieces with a 1-point lead in the match. Having white isn't as big of an advantage in bullet because everything just gets wild. We just saw Lucknow win with black. Kosteniuk can do the same here on her end of things. Knight a5, we've seen this plenty of times already. c5, this is standard in the Spanish. You try to take away the d4 square, gain space for your own pieces, and whether you can play d5, not so fast, the e5 pawn's hanging, can white play d4? The essential questions, who's striking first in the center, and here it's white. And
wow. I think that, white, this is a very, very typical, this looks like the Chikori now, honestly, I would say. Of course, there's still slight different elements of it, but it does look a lot like the Chikori. And white will probably play d5 at some point. Oh, as I said that, that is not how you play these positions. But
Yeah, because now the bishop on c2 is sort of lacking a defender. If knight takes e5, there's queen c7, amazing move, hitting the knight that would be on e5 and hitting the bishop on c2. So this double attack is probably what Lucknow overlooked at first. She's moving so quickly, but that was a moment that she probably wants to take back.
yeah, you know, in the Gregorian, in the Spanish in general, you never, as white, you never take on e5 first.
Knight
That
takes
just
b2.
gives.
Sorry.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, you're completely right. That was a good tactic, but I'm just trying to say, I know it's a bullet game, so we're going super fast, but in the Spanish, you just pretty much never take on e5 as white because it gives black the open file.
I'm still waiting for knight takes b2, Chiyu.
It's not. Oh, rook takes d8.
Yes.
Oh no, but then this bishop takes d. Oh, and but I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. This is going way too fast. This is way too dank.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, look at this b4 move. Say, take my knight on a3, I'll take your bishop on c3. The knight for white is trying to come to f5, so that's what's scaring me. Bishop retreat is good. Knight to b5. Now knight f5. I think black will play knight d4 because she does not want to see his knight sacrificed in g7 or h6. And, okay, so you went bishop e3 first to stop knight d4. She'll capture it. Knight has to go to f5. I'm waiting for it. And it hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. Maybe now it's going to happen. And then queen e5. Nice centralization by the chess queen.
Yes.
And knight takes e4. Free pawn. No thank you, she says. Maybe it wasn't so free. It looked like I could take it, but also a6 is hanging. You have to be careful about that. The rook on c1 right now is under attack. So rook c2 played. g6.
Oh, g3.
Oh my gosh, it like traps the queen.
Well, almost, but if queen e5, that's just knight takes h6.
Oh, she moved her knight
and
back.
it's not-
She had knight takes h6. You're right. There was knight takes h6 there, but she, like, oh, g6 fell.
Wait, but rook takes c2, and then there's... Wait.
This is complicated. Rook takes c2. You can't take with the queen to d3 check. Now queen takes c2 is a threat. You have, okay, she goes king g2 to avoid that. Now it's even material, opposite color bishops. E5, though, and then queen g6.
Oh my god, this is a lot.
Oh, Ksenia needed this game.
Yeah, Katerina is just like, she's got the attack now. She's in the attacking mood.
Just don't take on f7 with your queen, because knight g... Oh, knight g5! That commentator just cursed her! I feel horrible! I said don't take with your queen on f7, and she did it! Oh my gosh, Chiyu! I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And now black is going to win, and Kostanik is going to even this match up. Oh my gosh.
Bullet games, though. Bullet games do be like this.
They always are like this. You're like, oh, I'm completely winning. Wait, what was that? I'm completely losing now? What happened? Where did my win go? Oh, and this is just a win for Kostanik at this point. And, oh my gosh, we're about to get into a situation where we're about to be tied 4.5, with one, maybe two bullet games to go. G6, queen takes g6 is forced. That is checkmate. Oh my gosh, Chiyu. I'm just gonna go. Oh my gosh. We have no time to even analyze that game, but that knight fork was missed.
That was a lot. That's all you needed to know.
The commentator curse is real. So Lucknow playing a calm approach now in this Spanish here. Who are you favoring? We have a tied match. Who has the advantage now?
I do think that I don't know. It's a coin flip. At this point, a coin flip.
Well, I brought Kostanik on camera, so we'll see her reactions.
Okay, we'll see Kostanik's reactions. Yeah.
Chiyu, I don't know. I don't know who's favorite. I feel like Lucknow is playing a bit better, but at the same time, that win is just huge for the confidence.
Like Katerina's doing so well. It must be such a blow to like her confidence for missing that.
So let's see what's happening here. It looks like a position that's very solid for both sides. White has a little bit more space, and so you can go b4, you can go bishop e3. You have the two bishops for white, so you have an unopposed light square bishop. Black is super solid, though. There's no clear weakness to exploit, so I would prefer white's position slightly. I just would get frustrated that I can't break through in any way.
Right. Do you think we're going to see a bullet mini match and then Armageddon today?
So just to remind everybody what Chiyu's trying to hinting at is that if they end up tied and there's only a minute, just under 2 minutes left in this match, we would get 2 games of bullet, a mini match, white and black, and then if that's tied, we get an Armageddon where white gets 5 minutes. Black gets 4 minutes in draw odds. And right now, we're in a position where it looks like this game should fizzle out into a draw. And we will get one more bullet game if this game is indeed drawn in the next, let's say, minute.
Definitely. Wow. Opposite color bishop endgame. Nothing. So how do you feel about opposite color bishop endgames?
This is an endgame, so let's start there.
Okay.
This is a pretty
good.
Now it's a very simple draw because neither king can get in. Even though White's pawn structure is worse with these double e pawns, you can never play g4. White has that pawn push completely under her control, and neither side can make progress. So they're going to shuffle around a bit, and there is just over a minute left. I wonder who wants this last game more. Like, who wants to play one more game? Is it Lock No to get one more? She gets the white pieces.
I think for them it's roughly even, but yeah, I definitely probably Lano. It's more important as White to go for that final win. You know.
Speaking of final win, there's no chance for. But I thought the king could come in, but the g pawn runs. Never mind. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, no, I just think it will be a. I think it will be a draw, and I think it's more important for Lano to get the white pieces because as White you can really push for that win, which is critical, especially in a bullet match.
And she's the higher seed, so she gets to choose, does she get white first or second in the mini-match. We are down under 30 seconds right now, so it's time trouble for both. The match is about to conclude, and now Black is making progress. You've stopped the G-pawn. In comes the Black king. Wait a second. This could be losing for White now.
Yeah.
This could be a problem. I just saw Kosteniuk shake her head. I'm going to bring Lock No on camera here to see her reaction. She is pressing for a victory with no time.
Wait!
Oh my gosh, she won! And she won!
Oh, she just wants to go for the next game. She just wants that game. So now we know who is pushing for it.
Wait, but was there time left? That was like right at the buzzer there.
Does this count? Is this game gonna count?
I'm checking in with the staff here because that's like an instant replay. There were 2 seconds left on the clock. This game counts. So Kosteniuk resigned just in time here, and they get this one final game. The time is up. This game will finish, and it matters for the standings here. Wow.
Whoa. Okay, that was a 5-head play from Kosteniuk, though. She knows she was going to lose that game, so she was just like, let's get it over with. Let me get this one more game in.
Oh my gosh, and because Kosteniuk, she needs to win this game. Let's bring her up on camera. We'll bring her on screen. What a decision there to resign. A lot of people have been like, wait a second, no, I need to make a draw here. I can't afford a loss. I'll be down on the scoreboard. She says, no, I have a couple seconds left. I'm going to lose anyway. I need to play one more game.
Right. So do they see the clocks on the screen, like how much time they have left for the match, like the section? Or is she just guessing?
They're supposed to keep a timer themselves, so I'm guessing that Kosteniuk, who has experience in these formats, she's played in the WSCC before, I'm guessing she has one, and she probably looked and was like, okay, resign, and then play the next game. That is unbelievable.
Wow.
And, I mean, give credit to Lock No for pressing in what was surely an equal endgame. She blockaded that G-pawn and then marched her king in. Unbelievable stuff.
Our endgame expert has just said that it was a complete draw, and Katarina did prove him wrong for a little bit.
She first sacrificed the pawn, then won the e3 pawn, then figured out the right way to bring her king in and blockade the pawn. And right now, Lock No has the white pieces here. It's one of these positions where there's so much material on the board, only one pawn has been traded off per side here, so it gets complicated. But look at White's rooks here, just staring at this knight on b7. It feels like Black is all sorts of tied down. And what have we said about fianchettoed knights? Chiu, there's a knight on b7.
Yeah, no, not the knight you want in the Spanish. It's a really, really bad knight. It's actually going to be so useless because not only can you not go to c5 or a5, you can't even go... If you go to d8, you can't even go to e6 or c6. There is quite literally nowhere for your knight to go. You don't want to fianchetto your knights.
No, you don't. You need to do something in the king side, maybe g5, g4, out of desperation more than anything. And, I have the wrong name up, I just realized. I have Lock No's name. This is not Lock No. My apologies on that. It is Kosteniuk, who we have here. Just forgot to do that. And we have this position where she... Wait, what just happened on... Isn't Black down a piece? Yeah, Black's down a piece. And now
that's not... This is...
That's it.
And that will be Katarina's win, and she wins the match.
That's it. Katarina Lochno wins the match first with an extremely impressive grind in a long opposite color bishop ending. Then we just saw her win the must-win game for Kosteniuk. It didn't go her way. She had a Fianchetto knight that was stuck in there. Katarina Lochno deserves all the credit in the world right now. I mean, what an amazing performance.
That was intense. That was absolutely just intense. I mean, Kosteniuk shook her head at the end there. She couldn't believe that she messed the end of that up, but both players played really well.
I'm honestly as close to speechless as I've ever been. And I'm somebody who can talk nonstop about chess whenever, however, why ever. Not even a word, but I'm making it up. So that just how did that just happen? I'm pulling that game up really quickly. I think it's important to go back and show brilliance when we see it unfold. And that was bullet brilliance. Get some alliteration going. In this endgame, we were just looking at, it should be a complete draw. Black has a dark square bishop, white has a light square bishop. You're controlling opposite squares. So how did she do this? She eventually pushed her pawn to h5, which said, I might play g4. I actually have an extra pawn on the G and H files. And so she was just trying to work that magic. And Kosteniuk said, well, you're not getting that because I have g4 under control. But look at what Lochno did. She sacrificed the pawn on g4. What a brilliant move. So that after it takes h4, white is going to be tied down to this passed pawn, and it should still be a draw. It's definitely a position where if you gave Kosteniuk 5 minutes on the clock or even 2 minutes on the clock, she's going to draw this game almost every single time.
Yeah, I can't believe that happened though. Like honestly, it's just one of those end games you can't lose. Like you really just can't lose. But it just goes to show how determined Katarina was to win this. And it was coming out from yesterday too. She just said she's very determined.
Yeah, she was really doing great work in order to get this pawn going, to bring her king in, and then once her bishop blockaded the pawn, her king was free to run over to the queenside and wreak havoc, and she did just that, and Kosteniuk resigned because she's losing one of her 2 pawns, and then there will be a passed pawn here. So we are going to take a very quick break because we are going to have an interview with Katarina Lochno, so you will want to hear her thoughts after what was a fantastic finish. We'll be right back. Welcome, everybody. We return here with the champion of that semifinal matchup. Katarina, that was an amazing display of endgame technique. How are you feeling right now?
Well, of course, I feel better when it's already over and I won the match. Of course, I'm relieved.
So, what was your mindset like in that end game? Did you know how much time was remaining in the match clock when you were playing that out?
No, 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 at all, at all. I was
Ooh,
disappointed when I blundered my queen,
right.
because it was already,
Hmm.
I thought the point is here in my hands, and I just forgot about knight g5 check. So, well, that's why you should never, already, because you think, okay, you won already the game, and
Yeah,
you don't pay attention. But she was tricky, and well, of course, and I had to start everything again.
yeah. I mean, when that happened, it was like, your position was so good, and we can totally understand it was bullet. So a lot of things are happening on the board. So it
Yes,
was a really, really intense
it
game.
goes too fast.
Yeah, too fast.
Well, speaking of too fast, in your bullet games, it seems like there have been plenty of them where you're over a minute, more time than you started with. So, have you been working on your openings in preparation for these matches? Because you're playing really quickly in the openings.
Well, yes, now I can tell you that I prepared this line with b5, knight a5. That actually is not good.
I'm glad you said that, Katerina, because I've played that myself, and I said, do as I say, not as I do, because that line is very suspicious.
It's very it is really very suspicious, but it's a tricky
Mhm.
one, and of course, when I thought I was not sure, I wanted to play just one game. Then I thought maybe two.
And they ended up being the whole match.
Maybe no, but I had the feeling that she will check it during
Hmm.
the break.
Right.
So, well, of course, it was very risky, but yes, you should also make a good moves with white. You cannot just make some moves, then you will not have the advantage. So, but then finally I changed and I played some solid opening.
Well, it seemed like it worked out today, and it was a good choice. And how happy are you to have a rest day tomorrow? You must be pretty exhausted from all these very tense matches.
Yes, of course, time to rest, but not so long, just one day. But okay, we play only for a bit more than 1 hour.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So a lot of course, there's a lot of concentration, but then you are free and okay, I will try to sleep well today and tomorrow and see what happens.
Yeah.
Are you?
I mean,
Oops, sorry. Go ahead, Chiu.
no. I was just saying we're very excited to also see, hope you
Mm,
get some good rest and see you play some amazing games on Sunday too.
And
thank you.
my last question for you is: are you excited to play against Yifan, because she doesn't really play that much chess these days? It seems like she's getting back into it, and I know you two have played in the past. But what kind of?
But I missed her. I missed her so much. No, but I think she is really one of the strongest or strongest
Hmm.
player, woman player in the world. So it's a bit pity that she stopped to play because she is very talented, and it was very hard to play against her each time I played. So of course I understand it will be a hard match, but as I told you, I'm very happy to see her playing chess. So I hope she will play not only online but also offline for some years.
Yeah, we definitely are hopeful of the same, and I really appreciate that sentiment from you, because you're up for the challenge. You're playing great chess, and well, we wish you the best heading into Sunday.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
And
Bye.
that was Katerina Lucknow there joining us for a call, and she won her match. Great to see her playing like this. And just remind everybody, we have the finals 4:30 a.m. Pacific time. Chiu, did you need a reminder that it's going to be at 4:30 a.m. Pacific on Sunday?
You're telling me I have to wake up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday?
As I kind of have to tell you that, otherwise I'd be lying. Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, well, I'll make sure I will be here for that, Robert.
I was coming up with something to say. I had nothing there to say to you instead. So it's going to be the two of us back at it on Sunday. Any kind of final thoughts of what was two great semifinal matchups? Of course, the first one we saw was one-sided in Yifan's favor, and then we saw a magnificent finish there by Katerina Lochno. What are your expectations for Sunday?
I'm very excited because I think Yifan is a very strong player, but then Katerina Lochno is a very strong blitz player. So, two worlds collide.
Actually, Lochno is the higher-rated blitz player between the two, and that's in part because Yifan doesn't play that much over the board, and blitz tournaments are not that frequent of an event. So I'm not going to say that to take that for granted, but it's probably about even in terms of their ratings. Katerina Lochno is an amazing player, and I really like her attitude. The way she talked about how she's happy that Yifan is back. Some people be like, I don't want to play her. She's really good. She's like, no, I'm thrilled that she's back, so I have the best possible opposition.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I've already started planning out like my sleep schedule and my shower schedule. Like I did a shower this morning because I showered late afternoon yesterday, so that I wouldn't have to shower today morning. Okay. So I'm planning this out so I could be up at 7 a.m.
Okay,
Sunday.
Good for me to know as your co-commentator, as your partner in crime here. I think it's very important that I know your entire itinerary, when you're going to shower, what your plans are, sleeping schedule-wise. So thank you for sharing that with all of us and not just me. It's important to know.
No worries, Robert. No worries.
Oh, well, it's been another extremely fun day, Chiu. It's a blast covering this event with you. We have both a consolation match and the final match. The third place matchup will be between Sarah and Alexandra. So those two will compete for some Grand Prix points. I actually can show you exactly what they're fighting for. Reminder to everybody, I haven't shown this graphic once, and I've had it here. 12 points for first place. That will be between Lochno and Yifan. Second place is 8 points and $2,000. Not bad. And then third and fourth, there's a difference of $300 and 1 Grand Prix point.
That is pretty cool.
So
a lot of monies.
A lot of money, that's for sure. And well, Chiu, I'm about ready to call this one. You ready to sign off? I'm gonna get.
Yes.
I'll let you give the outro. The floor is yours.
The outro?
Yeah.
We'll be back on Sunday, so make sure you guys come back on Sunday for more commentary. There will not be matches tomorrow because the players are taking a break. We're taking a break, and we will be back on Sunday. And
there is the Chess Kid Speed Chess Championship going on, so that's where the rate will go. Enjoy that. Just so much Speed Chess Championship action happening. So we're out. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your Friday and the weekend. We'll see you Sunday. All right. Bye, guys.